Tonight, Scott Snyder starts putting the finishing touches on his Batman run, despite the fact that he will never, ever, ever leave the character alone. Keith Giffen spends the entirety of his Justice League issue reminding you that he wrote Larfleeze once, and you should probably check that out. And Cyborg tells us that Superman is not only a bit too trusting and kind-hearted, but also a complete idiot. All that and more tonight on the Not-So-New 52. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 238 of the Not So New 52. I am your host and don't really want to talk for too long today because we've got a bunch of issue 50s, which are double length. We've got Suicide Squad Most Wanted, which is double length. And then I also just don't know how to shut up. And a lot of the books take a while to just get through even when they're normal length. So all that presenting for a very long show today. Let me tell you the comics that we got coming out. At the very least, I can do that. In roughly alphabetical order, we have Batman, Cyborg, Deathstroke, Grayson, Harley Quinn, Justice League 3001, Secret Six, Suicide Squad Most Wanted, Deadshot and Katana, Superman, Lois and Clark, Teen Titans, We Are Robin, and Wonder Woman, and then also the weekly series of Batman and Robin Eternal. Second to last issue. Wrapping that up soon. Anyway, the only thing I want to say up front here, I guess two things. First and foremost, next week is a fifth week. There are only 4 comics coming out that week. I have other plans. I don't want to specifically say what they are because they are so wildly outlandish plans that I don't know if I can make it work. But if I can, it's going to be the dumbest thing I've ever done. Otherwise, the only other thing I want to mention is Suicide Squad Most Wanted, Deadshot and Katana. So, last week we had the book Legends of Tomorrow, which is a 4-story anthology book, 4 full-length comics all in one. For anyone who watched that segment of the show, I split it up in a very specific way to basically separate out each story into its own thing. I haven't done that with previous anthology books. Either I've just completely separated them into like different things entirely, or I've kept them all in the same section. When we came to the Suicide Squad Most Wanted issue this week, I really liked the way I handled it with Legends of Tomorrow, so I'm going to be doing it with that. It's kind of broken up. It's a little bit broken up. Just from the back end, it's big. From the front end, it means almost nothing. It means that you just have like 10 seconds less to wait between each individual book, and there will be a timestamp in the description for it. So all that said, boy, I sure do talk a lot when I say I don't want to talk a lot. Let's get into what is undoubtedly the number 1 book of the week, Batman. Batman number 50, written by Scott Snyder, art by Greg Capullo, with the epilogue art done by Yanick Paquette. So, last issue, Bruce Wayne came back. We finally got that. Happened. This issue we pick up where Bruce is going deeper into the Batcave. We see all the different bat suits that the narration is saying like, all right, people want their Batman back. You got to get out there. You got to give them the Batman they deserve, something they've never seen before. And it turns out the narration is not Bruce, it's Gordon, who was completely knocked out by Bloom. Apparently, Julia says later on he had his spleen punctured. So, he ain't doing so hot, but he's like, oh, I got to get up. I got to do this. Let's go. And Julia's like, no, you do not. You are going to the hospital immediately. And he's like, no, just let me see what's going on. And we look out over the city of Gotham, and Bloom is kaiju. He's doing horrible eldritch things. We see that the police force have gotten into their own rookie suits. All of them are wearing bat suits, and Maggie Sawyer's the one leading the charge, saying like, let's give him hell, we'll knock him down. And he's like, hey, check this out. And Bloom raises his hand, and all of the suits are all of a sudden under his control, to which he turns around and just starts blasting random apartment buildings with it. So Jim's like, oh my god, this is all my fault. I thought that like this I could take Bloom, but oh my god. And then we see, as he's standing there looking over the wreckage, a couple of random people who also took bloom seeds. I guess they have a relationship. One of them's name is Luscious Precious, brother of Precious Precious. he comes in and he's like, hey, Jim, I got problems with you, so now I'm going to go ahead and fight you off here. And he basically says how he's not being a pawn for Bloom, he's going to take his own place and blah, blah, blah. And as he's basically saying all this, and he's got lightning powers, he's like, pshaw, you're not going to be able to stop us. You're not even the real Batman. And then Bruce comes in his new outfit, and he says, no, but I am. And as Jim looks on, he's like, hey, man. And he's like, hey, Jim, who died and made you Batman? He's like, ha. So Batman jumps in, starts the fight. They all have different, like, elemental powers. Some have smoke, some have ice, some have fire. Batman just comes in and immediately starts destroying all of them. And Bruce makes the comment of saying, hey, I feel great, Alfred. Like, what's up? And he's like, well, when you went and fell in the Dionysium and it like fixed up your brain and like gave you amnesia, it also fixed up your body. You are now in peak physical condition without any of like the scars from training. So you are actually the best Batman that you've ever been. And he goes, neat. So the fight continues on. He shows off a little bit by taking the bat signal, like bat, and using it as a boomerang or whatever to take out one of the main guys there. So he gets in front of Jim. Jim's taking care of Julia, and he's like, Jim's basically like, look, Batman, I'm sorry about all this, is whatever. But before they could get too deep into it, before they can have a moment, all of a sudden, a black hole opens up in Gotham. They call it a strange star, which apparently the collider is feeding on the energy from the... Look, I don't know where the hell this came from. All of a sudden, there's a black hole in Gotham. You just got to accept that. So they're saying, Jim and Bruce are like, all right, we're on it. And I think Maggie's on the... No, sorry, it's Jerry Powers is on the other side. And she's like, who the hell is we? So Gordon and Batman make a plan saying, all right, Bloom must have the super seed inside of himself that draws the energy from all the other seeds. He's siphoning off the energy. We just got to take him out and then everything's fixed. And as Gordon hops into a helicopter to get over to the main part of the fight, Bruce handcaps him to it and says, nope, you're not going to be part of this. I will release the handcuffs when you get to the hospital because you need to do that. And Gordon tries to argue back, but he's like, all right, well, Godspeed. We then get Duke. He manages to stow onto the bat blimp with Daryl, and he's like, hey, Daryl, a lot of stuff's going on down there. I saw my parents, by the way, and they are not good. They're still Jokerized. But also, it was so debilitating to see them like that, I almost decided to give up and not look through the list that I got from Penguin's hideout. Remember when I did that? As he looked through it, he came across his own name. And Daryl's like, what? You had associations with the Penguin? He's like, no, because I looked deeper and I found your name. And it turns out this is a list of all the people who were Genius Grant nominees. That's apparently where the Penguin knew that the technology for Bloom came from. He was doing his own research. So he's looking into all these guys. And long story short, Duke puts together that Daryl is the one who originally was Mr. Bloom. So all of a sudden he starts freaking out. He's got his own powers. He's fighting against Duke. Bloom's super happy with the fact that Gotham's being taken over by a black hole. Batman ties a rope around his giant kaiju neck, ties the other end to a bus, and just starts driving. He jumps out, starts kicking Bloom in the giant kaiju face, and as he uses an infrared thermal scan or whatever, he sees the super seed inside of Bloom, and he's like, cool, I'm just going to grab that. However, all the bat bots that are under Bloom's control start attacking him. Bloom makes it funny by changing all of their colors into the Rogues Gallery, and he's like, what do you think of that? Gordon's flying over into the star, and Julia's on the other line just being like, hey man, we don't have anything that can stop that. There is literally nothing that can dampen that amount of power. And he's like, so you're saying it's hopeless? And she's like, nope, I'm saying good luck. So the fight between Bloom and Batman continues. Eventually, the giant bat mech comes out of nowhere. Its color scheme is of the Joker. Doesn't matter. Daryl and Duke continue fighting, and that's where Daryl gives the full explanation. During Zero Year, he took on the identity of Mr. Bloom, and he was trying to come up with this thing to give powers to whoever. He gave it to his cousin, which I think we saw all unfold in an annual a while back. But he was like, it didn't work. I burned all my stuff after Batman took back the city for Zero Year. It's whatever. However, once Endgame happened, I pulled out my stuff again. I remade it. However, this time I put in safeguards in place to make sure that, like, it couldn't be used for evil and stuff. Turns out, none of that mattered, because one day I came in and I found that one of my test subjects, who all of his test subjects were nobodies that, like, completely fell through the system. One of them killed all the other test subjects, and that was Mr. Bloom. And he's like, I don't know who this guy is. He's a complete enigma. Please let this be my Joker. So Bloom's pissed off, or sorry, Daryl's pissed off that this rando took all of his stuff, took his name, and like ruined his technology. And he's basically saying, yeah, the seeds weren't finished. They're not being used right. Under the right thing, it would be fine, but like he's ruined it. And then Duke just ends up kicking him in the face. That's all it really amounts to. So back down on the ground, we see more and more people are taking the seeds. All the energy's getting siphoned off. Jim makes his way over to the collider, and he's like basically saying, look, the dampener we used against Bloom back at Blossom Row, it's an energy blocker. Is that still inside the rookie suit? Can we still do that? And he's just like, yeah, but like you would need a massive antenna to do that. And we see as he's getting the rookie suit out, he's like, oh yeah, but like this building's antenna might be a thing. And then all of a sudden the antenna comes crashing in through the window, and Bloom's like, oh, I'm sorry, did I ruin your plan? Did I ruin your... Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Anyway... So he keeps trying to attack Jim. All of a sudden, the giant Joker mech is now turned into a Bat mech, and Batman's piloting it, and we get a giant kaiju fight in the middle of Gotham City. Just accept this. He calls out to Jim, like, hey, I thought I told you to go to the hospital. And he's like, I'm on my way. And he's like, well, you're going to have to call it quits now, because, like, you got to find a way to shut down that star. And he basically says there's no way that we can amplify the dampener. There's a, wait a minute, hold on, never mind, I got an idea. So the fight between Bloom and Batman continues. Bloom just gives this whole big thing of nihilism and like, nah, screw it, knock it all down to the ground. Batman, I thought you were cool. I thought you were one of those people who would get it, but you're just a poser like the rest of them. So he uses whatever powers he has to melt most of the Batmech. And then as he's standing over top gloating and saying like, oh yes, we will wipe out this city and make something new, Bloom gets blown up by missiles, or at least knocked down by missiles from the blimp. Turns out Duke is the one that's piloting now. And he's like, Batman, look, I know you don't know who I am, but like, this is your chance. Jump in, do what you got to do. And we see he uses a heat vision from the mech suit to try to burn into Bloom's suit. Doesn't work out, and he ends up getting knocked down. So Bloom attacks Duke in the blimp, and then activates a magnet in it in order to pull Bloom up. Sure. Meanwhile, Gordon is saying, hey, the thing I figured out to amplify the pulse or whatever is Batmanium. Remember we introduced that? It's a superconductor, therefore it's perfect for this. So Duke has to bail out of the blimp. As he does, his parachute rips and he's falling to his death. Batman runs in, grabs him. The whole city sees, and they're like, oh, look, it's Batman. He's back. The real one, not that other one. Gordon in the rookie suit makes his way up to the roof of the building where this strange star thing is happening. It looks like Daryl is ripping out the seed that's inside of him, as Jim is basically saying, like, look, I screw this. Like, all this is too much. It's all whatever. And Bloom gets pulled into the star, but he's fighting against it, so he looks even more grotesque. And then Jim just goes on this long ending speech where he's like, look, when you asked me to give a speech before, I didn't know what I would say, but now I do. Me being Batman's a really dumb idea. It's a really stupid idea, but the whole reason I did it is because I'm afraid that if someone wasn't Batman, that they would fall back onto the normal police system and that we would fail. And if the police system fails, like, that just is too much for me. I need to know that there is at least the ability to do this stuff without superheroes. And then he pivots over to saying superheroes are there to fight the big things, but the day-to-day improvement of the human race is up to us as normal people. And I didn't want to have to face the idea that we might not be up to that fight. But now I realize we can do it. So he sends off the blocker. It pushes Bloom into the black hole. The black hole starts shutting down. And theoretically, that's the end of it. Cut to epilogue. We get a flashback of Gordon coming into Gotham for the first time, and he's just in awe of how big the whole city is. We then see he's in a hospital room where Julia and Jerry come in. And Julio's like, hey, Jerry's shutting down the whole program, so we got you out of there at the last possible minute. Aren't you happy? And he's like, yeah, great, but either way, I quit. And then they offer up saying, hey, Maggie Sawyer wants you to be commissioner again. Bullock's coming in with your badge. Do you want the job? And he takes a moment. He steps out onto the balcony. Batman meets him out there. And he talks to Batman. He's like, look, I just wanted to say sorry. Like, all this stuff happened and Bloom ruined the city just like Joker did. And Batman's like, no, this wasn't like Joker. Like, Bloom, his whole thing was he could have been anybody. Joker's just the one guy. Like, don't worry about it. It's not the same thing. We get another flash sideways, forward, I don't know, of Bruce talking to Duke and basically saying, hey, Duke Thomas, I've got an offer for you. We cut over to the community center where Julie Madison's cleaning up all like the wreckage or whatever, and she thinks she sees the shadow of Batman. She runs out saying Bruce, but he's not there when she gets there. And Jim's whole rest of his speech is like, look, yeah, no, I'm sorry about the city being destroyed, all that, sure, but I'm also sorry because, like, you were out. I could tell that you were at peace. You did your job. You fought your fight. Even if you weren't dead, you were at peace. I shouldn't have had to call you back in. I should have been able to handle this on my own. And he's just like, nah, that's not what it is. That man died a long time ago. Don't worry about that. And he once again echoes the Gordon sentiment of like, you come into this city on the train, it just hits you like wham all at once. And they share that sentiment together. So Batman swings off, and we end the issue with Julie looking at the brick of the community center signed by Bruce Wayne. And it says, the rest of us, we do what we can to be able to say, I was here. So, feels a little bit sentimental. Scott Snyder more or less wrapping up his run. We will, of course, have 2 more issues, but they're more epilogue sort of things. So, yeah, it's good. It's a solid issue, but, like, where the hell did the black hole come from? Maybe that's just me. Maybe I just completely missed the fact of like, oh yeah, remember that collider? Like vaguely, very vaguely, I remember them talking about it of just like, oh yeah, we're starting up that collider. Isn't that a whole thing? But I don't know. It just feels like we need something big as a visual, something striking that's more than just Bloom stomping around. Fine. Okay. It felt weird. It felt like it came out of nowhere. Bruce's return is great. I love the rebirth batsuit, which is what this is. It looks awesome. Yeah, I honest to God, not a whole lot of problems with it. I think I like the idea that Bloom is this identityless person, but we did still ascribe an origin. We still are saying like, no, this is where he came from. However, we still don't know who it is specifically. No, it's a perfectly fine issue. I just... It's so big in scale, it feels impossible to talk about in a brief little wrap-up. So whatever you feel for it is whatever you feel for it. I'm going to say this one is... emotionally, I'd say it got up to the 8. If it weren't for like it being a 50th issue, if this were just the end of any other arc, it'd probably be somewhere in the 7s. But I'll give it the 8 for the sake of this is the end. Superman, Lois, and Clark, number 6, written by Dan Jurgens, art by Lee Weeks. So, last issue, we got a whole bunch of stuff, basically wrapping up the entire Blanc subplot, but opening up a couple other weird things. And then, dealing with the Intergang stuff, the fact that they found out Lois's identity, more or less. So, this issue picks up less than a year ago. It's the reveal of normal Clark Kent's identity. It's the beginning of all that stuff. And Lois comes in holding an iPad up to her Clark being like, yo, why would the other Lois do this? This is horrible. Why would this be a thing? What should we do? This puts a whole wrench in our stuff. And our Clark's like, well, yeah, I mean, just keep going. Like, whatever. I guess I got to keep the beard down. She's like, don't joke. This is dangerous. And he's like, look, no, we're going to be fine. It's okay. So we cut to now, and the whole thing was Lois's publisher friend or whatever was kidnapped by Intergang. So Clark is hanging out above Metropolis, and he is hyper-focused on his super hearing. He's blocking out all the other sounds from the city, and he's listening specifically for the ringtone that the woman Cora uses for Lois. And as he's knocking out everything, 5 o'clock hits. That was the agreed upon time between Lois and him. And then he hears it. He hears it way off in the distance. And he's like, cool, I'm heading over there now. Meanwhile, Lois was called in to pick up John from school because he missed the bus because he was hanging out in the library. And they're like, that's weird. He always wants to get out of school as fast as possible. But the teacher says that he's working on an extra credit biography report, and it turns out it is for Earth Zero's Superman. And she's like, oh, well, that's interesting. We should talk about that. We cut over to San Francisco, which is apparently where... Oh, yeah, I said Metropolis earlier. I guess they're based in California, aren't they? I don't know. Wherever. We cut over to San Francisco where Cora is being held hostage by some intergang guys. They're about to shoot her. She's got a bag over her head. And then Clark comes in and just knocks one guy out of the building, knocks the other guy out of the building, lets Cora go, but says, like, hey, keep the bag on. I don't want you seeing my face. And then he takes off. But she says back, like, I was tortured. I told them who author X was. I told them it was Lois. We then cut over to the bridge, and if you remember, there was a little subplot of a ex-convict who got out of jail and was hired to be on a reality show where he was a supervillain and destroyed stuff for the sake of shock and awe. So there's a bridge that's going to be destroyed tomorrow anyway. They're like, all right, we got the permits, we close the roads. Like, you go out there, you cause some chaos, like, make it look good. And we got a couple little surprises for you as you destroy it. And he's like, all right, bet, we'll do. So he gets out there, starts destroying it. And then as he's destroying a big chunk of the bridge, a car, like, drives off it. And he's like, oh, all right, I guess they hired some stunt people. That's neat. We then cut over to Lois and John. They get kidnapped by Intergang because, of course, they know exactly who she is. And she's like, John, don't say anything. Don't do anything. We'll get out of this. It'll be all right. Meanwhile, a couple of trucks start passing by the people doing the reality show reporting. And they're like, that's not normal. That's not one of the things we planned. And the truck just, like, explodes as it goes over the side. Clark sees that and he's like, what's going on here? I'll just wrap up this whole bit real quick here. There is Hank Henshaw, who's being interrogated by some of the people who were, like, looking for him after his thing passed out. He sticks to the concussion story, saying, like, yeah, I was just dazed and walking around the island, no big deal. And they're like, yeah, that doesn't track with, like, every single thing that, like, makes any sense about this. And then as they're talking, all of a sudden, this woman named Hyathis, which is the woman we've seen before, comes in and says, hey, one of y'all got an Oblivion Stone. Gimme. So that's that. The rest of the story is Intergang threatening to kill Lois. And it's like, please just let the child go. I'll tell you anything you want. And it's just like, why? We don't want it. We just want to kill you. Like, that's all we're going to do here. Like, and so they light some paper on fire, set the whole shit up. Meanwhile, we see... I must have missed the page somewhere in here, but basically we see that there's people who are working with the reality show who call in and say, like, yeah, we're stuck in traffic, man. We didn't close the roads. All of this is actually happening. So Clark has to go in. He's saving cars one by one as they're just driving over the edge of this bridge. The guy keeps on destroying because he thinks it's normal. I guess he's not in contact with the reporters. As one of the cars goes down, there's a woman and her child inside. Clark picks it up, brings it back to save it, and then it's just like, all right, I got to take care of this supervillain guy. So he tackles him out, and as he does so, he uses the energy pulses in his super suit to attack Clark, and that's the end of that bit of the story. And then the final bit with Lois and John is Lois is like telling John, hey, it'll be okay. We'll get out of this. Your dad's going to find us. And he's like, why would Dad find us? Dad doesn't know where we are. And John just starts putting it all together, more or less. He's like, I heard you guys talking the other night. You've been lying to me. I don't know. Like, who are these guys that want to kill you? Why does Dad look like Superman? Why does the lady who outed him look like you? What is this all about? Why won't you tell me the truth about who I am? And as he gets more angry, he snaps the ropes that were binding them. And Lois is like, did you just snap a bunch of ropes? Like, those are tough ropes, and you just snapped all those? He's like, yeah, I guess I did. So he's like, okay, well, take off mine, and then we got to go. So they run towards the door, but the whole place is already burning up in flames. The door handle is too hot to touch, and there's fire in the way. And Lois is like recoiling from how hot it is, and John's like, it's not that hot. And he just reaches out, grabs hold of the handle, no problem. And Lois is like, oh, you, okay, yeah, we need to have a talk. So that's the issue. I like it. I think it's a well-paced issue, got a whole bunch of different stuff going on. I will say unless the supervillain reality show thing turns into something I'm not expected, it feels a bit out of place. It just feels a bit weird. It could go either way. I don't know, but I don't know. It feels a very strange placement here. In terms of the John reveal of powers, no, this feels perfectly placed because now we have issues 7 and 8 to really dole out what that means, how it's going to move forward, like how much is he going to know about his dad's stuff. And we're going to get that whole thing where, like, I guarantee you we're going to have the page where Papa Clark's going to come back and he's going to pop open the front of the shirt, show the S to John. John's going to go, wow, my dad's Superman. I'm curious to see how we deal with the intergang stuff, considering they know who Lois is. Like, that's not just something you can erase that easily, but maybe they'll have a way out. So, and then Oblivion Stone, that plot means nothing to me, and frankly, I don't see how they could possibly wrap it up, but we'll see what they do. All in all, I'd say 7.5. Feels good, looks good, don't really have that much problem with it. Wonder Woman number 50, written by Meredith Finch, art by David Finch. There's also a backup on this that has art by Miguel Meduncha. So, opening up, we had Wonder Woman was trying to steal 3 magic orbs from Hera in order to give to Hecate, and then a whole thing where she fell down a hole and got attacked by Cyclops. This issue basically just picks up exactly then. She wakes up, she's like, what just happened? We have a little flashback showing the Cyclops attacking her, and she's like, all right, well, Cyclops are notoriously hard to kill. If it were just one of them, I would have to use all of my strength. But I look up and I see there are 3 in front of me, so this is going to take a bit much. However, as she thinks they're about to attack, one of them just offers up a bowl of water, and she drinks from it. She's like, oh, thank you, I was thirsty. And her internal monologue is like, I thought Cyclops were brutes and would be murderous or whatever. This is not at all what I intended. What is going on? But she basically says, thank you. I will take the way out of here if you can show me that. And as I may be leading her, or more or less, they see Hephaestus coming in. Wonder Woman hides because she doesn't want to have to answer any questions about why she snuck in here. And Hephaestus comes in and just starts cracking the whip. He's like, you stupid bastards, what are you doing in here? Have I told you about trying to escape? And Wonder Woman's like, oh, I'm the one who opened the trap door. Maybe Hephaestus thought that was the Cyclops trying to get out. But then he keeps going, saying like, Zeus wanted you all dead, and I gave you guys a place to stay, and you've been giving me, you've taught me everything I know about making stuff, but now you're trying to leave. You're going to get yourselves killed, you stupid, stupid bastards. And he just keeps on attacking them, like, brutally. He's just vicious to them. And he basically says, you all belong to Olympus. Like, you and all of your powers, you'll never escape here ever. So Hephaestus leaves, and the Cyclops are like, being consoled by Wonder Woman. They write "we monster" in the ground, and she's like, hey, no, Hephaestus is a dick, screw him. Like, you guys aren't monsters. I'm gonna, you show me how to get out of here and I'll help you get out of here as well. And so they point to the path to escape, and so Wonder Woman pulls out her sword to break their chains, but they're too strong, she can't break through it. And she's like, okay, I gotta get out of here, but now I know you're down here, and I swear to you I will help get you out, I promise. So she goes, she sees Hecate again, and Hecate's like, hey, did you get my orbs? And she's like, yeah, I did, but you got to give me answers now. What is wrong with Zeke? Why are you the only person who knows how to save them? And why do you care about this at all? And she's like, well, it's complicated. And she's like, nah, not taking that. Give me the truth. So basically, not even related to the Zeke stuff. This is just, Zeke is Zeus reincarnated. It's all part of Zeus's like larger plan or something like that. However, the thing that was not part of the larger plan is Donna Troy becoming the new Fate. That is not something that was planned for, and so because of that, somehow that triggered Gaia to wake up, and now she wants revenge against the Olympians for messing with her creation so much. And Wonder Woman's like, that doesn't make any goddamn sense. You just told me that Gaia has been asleep and doesn't care about anything anyway. And she's like, yeah, well, now she does, and she's awake and all that. And as the orbs fade from like glowing, we find out that they're actually Cyclops eyes. And Wonder Woman's like, but I just saw the Cyclops. They all had their one eyes. And it's like, yeah, well, in mythology, the Cyclops originally had the ability to see the future. However, once they used that ability to help Zeus defeat the Titans, he took their eyes away, and Hephaestus gave them fake eyes, but now they can't see the future, and these ones are what allow Hera's scrying pool to work. And basically Gaia is pissed because the Olympians have treated her other monstrous creations so badly. So we get the Cyclops and Hecatonchirus and Typhoeus. All of them are monsters. All of them have been abused by the Olympians after helping out with the Titans problem. So Wonder Woman's like, okay, so what's the plan? It's like, well, we need to get all those monsters together, and that's gonna do something, whether it be help Gaia, help them, whatever. So Wonder Woman's like, okay, well, I know where the Cyclops are. Who's the next one? And turns out it's Typhoeus, the father of monsters. He's buried under Mount Etna. So Wonder Woman flies over there. She's on the peak of it. She's ready to dive inside. And then all of a sudden, Ares shows up. And Ares like, hey, good to see ya. Give me back my powers. I want to be God of War again. And she's like, that's not how this works. You know I can't do that because, like, you have a history with me in a lot of continuity. She's like, fair enough, but I'm going to take it from you. So they start fighting. And he basically says, like, look, you're a crappy God of War. The Olympians don't even like you. We all just tolerated you. You're like the worst. You keep on thinking that you're going to come in there and fix things. We are a Bravo reality television show. We're not going to play nice and sing together or whatever. So give me back my powers because I don't know who I am if I'm not the God of War. And then all of a sudden a hole in the ground opens up. Turns out they're in the lair of Typhoeus. And Ares is like, all right, look, we're still going to continue fighting because, like, well, why would we stop? However, Diana gets knocked back into Typhoeus, who is this giant dragon serpent thing. I think it'd be like a wyvern for all the nerds who know the different types of dragons. And he's, like, chained up. So Diana says, like, okay, truce while we're fighting this giant monster. And he's like, truce again. God of War, what are you doing offering a truce? So they're continuing to fight each other as Diana is fighting them. Ares is about to try to slay Typhoeus, and she's like, nope, I need him. So she punches Ares, gets him out of the fight, goes over to Typhoeus, breaks his chain, and then just flies off with him and says, like, I'm never going to stop trying to fix this Olympian problem and also to save baby Zeke because he's innocent and he deserves it. So they fly back over to Hecate's place. She just lets Typhoeus off being like, well, all right, I guess you weren't that evil for being the father of monsters. And Hecate comes out being like, yeah, monster is a pejorative term. Like, it's being applied here by the Olympians to describe it. They're awful. So they basically say, okay, the very last one, the Hecatonchires, is located on Themyscira in the Tartarus pit. And that's where we'll pick up in 51. But this has a backup story. So in terms of this story, it's okay. Look, we had that entire thing of, like, the god of peace and then bringing back Apollo and Ares and stuff like that. I like that stuff because it was dealing in different circles. Same thing with the Donna Troy stuff. All of Meredith Finch's stuff has been dealing in different circles than the Olympians. Yes, it's there. Yes, it's in the background, but the foreground is something different. It's something fresh to the mythology. This is retreading back onto what Azzarello was kind of doing already and what he had set up, and it feels like it's actively working against it. Not to say that we can't just retcon things, that's fine, but this whole Ares now, like, wanting his job back where the previous incarnation was like, no, actually, I was really sick of it and I'm happy to move on. It doesn't feel like there's a good enough explanation for that. So this one, it's fine. It's not great. It's not blowing me away. It just feels like, again, kind of wrapping up. We're just doing this story to get to 52. So I'm going to say 7 for the main story. Backup story is actually following Donna Troy. We're in England. She's got a horse. Its name is Discordia. I think it's already known as a Pegasus or whatever. But she's basically just like, I don't know what being a fate means. And I'm on my own here in England. And I don't know what I'm doing. And, like, I am here to learn how to be alone, how to make that work, and figure out who I am as Donna Troy. And as she reaches a cliffside, she all of a sudden gets a vision of this young boy in a storm. And then she sees 2 separate paths, one where he drowns and the other one where he kills a guy. And Donna's like, what? Okay, so is that like my thing is fate? Do I need to like pick and choose what choose your own adventure we go down here? The Pegasus takes off, ready to go, and she's like, no. We're not, I haven't made a decision yet. I don't know what to do about this. As storm clouds are rolling in, and she's like, okay, do I interfere? Is that my role as fate, where I get to choose what the finale is here? However, he's gonna kill a guy if I do that. So like, do I just let him drown? Is that like, I've literally been given a trolley problem here, and I barely know what ethics are. So eventually she searches inside herself, and she's like, I gotta at least go out there. So she goes out to the boy. His name's Tommy. He's in a boat, and he's taking on water. He's not going to last very long. Tommy looks up and sees this black winged horse and a woman on top, and he's like, oh my god, am I already dead? Are you an angel? You ain't taking me, you stupid angel bitch. And she's like, no, what? No, I'm here to help you, okay? You're not dead. I'm taking you out of the storm. Take my hand. So takes the hand. Turns out the whole reason he was out in the storm is his dad recently passed away. Him and his dad would always go out on his mom's birthday and bring back a big fish. But now that the dad wasn't there, he tried to do it on his own and got caught off guard. So he returns home empty-handed. The boat's now also been destroyed. And the mom's like, oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm just happy to have you here. And he's like, no, like you were going to sell that boat. Now, like, I've messed everything up, and I'm so upset. And she's like, hey, nothing is more important than you. Let's get inside. But he is still very upset about it. As Donna walks out through the rain, she's like, okay, I mean, yes, I saved a boy's life, but I don't feel like I'm a hero for it. Like, I don't know. But I don't know. Maybe there's a chance for redemption. Nothing to say he actually goes down that other path. Maybe me intervening was a good thing. I've helped someone. Hooray. So we cut to the next day. They go into town to get themselves some groceries. As she's down in town saying like, yeah, you know what? A hero like Diana. I'm liking the sound of that. She comes out of the grocery store. All of a sudden, police are everywhere. They're surrounding this bank building, and she's like, wait a minute, hold on. I'm getting a vision. And then she sees this is the other path. Tommy is currently inside holding the bank teller hostage and threatening for the money. Turns out he takes the shot, and he thought the gun was a toy, that it wasn't loaded. He's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Oh, geez, I did it. And the police are just like, oh, he fired the gun. Take aim. Let's go. So Donna tries to rush in to stop them, but the police end up shooting Tommy dead. And that's that. He's just dead. And she's like, oh my god, this is all my fault. I saw this coming, and like now 2 lives are gone. There is no silver lining to this. Being fate sucks. However, I don't think Donna learns about this part because this isn't an epilogue. Turns out that bank teller was actually a predator who had 3 women locked in his basement, one of which has been missing for like 2 decades. And it never would have been found if he were not killed so publicly, so that they like got into his house and found these women there. So 3 women are now saved, and that's the silver lining. Fate works in mysterious ways. I actually like that backup story a lot. It doesn't do anything for the real like character growth of Donna. If anything, it feels like it regresses her, where she's like, nope, I ain't messing with it. It's too much. I can't do it. But the idea of like, no, you can't see the whole picture. You can't see. You're so limited down to this branch. You can't see the whole choose your own adventure book for what it is. I don't know. I just like that as a concept, and art wise, it also looks great. So kudos. I appreciate that. I'll give the backup. Independently, I'll give that I'd say an 8. I think it absolutely works. I don't know if it's going to be something we cut back to constantly. It doesn't feel like we will, but solid backup for what it is. Cyborg number 9, written by David F. Walker, art by Felipe Watanabe and Julio Ferreira. So, last issue we had Cyborg approached by the Cybernetic Council, whatever division, that basically said, hey, we're taking you into custody. And he said, screw you, no you ain't. This issue shows Shazam stepping in saying, hey, maybe we all just need to relax. What's this all about? And Cyborg's like, get out of the way, man. We're going to fight. This is how it's going. Shazam's like, excuse me, Cyborg. If you fight against the government, you're breaking the law, and that's not totally cash money of you. And he's like, oh, fair enough. And then he pulls out his sonic cannon and is like, I'll fight you too, Shazam. I ain't going down. I ain't being taken in. So he ends up shooting Shazam. And then we keep on in this issue cutting back and forth between the fight itself and then other flashbacks of Cyborg talking to the Justice League. Just know the fight is going on. It's not important to know the exact details of it. Suffice to say that the other people watching on are like, okay, well, we'll let them fight each other and tire themselves out, and then we'll come in and take Cyborg anyway. So, cutting back to the first one, 45 days ago, Cyborg's talking to the Justice League, basically saying, all right, there's a new cybernetic act being proposed, and it's going to get passed. And Superman's like, well, I mean, we don't know that for sure. And they're all like, Superman, stop being such a Boy Scout. These people are awful. And he's like, all right. So, Cyborg says everything he's discovered about people being taken, being vanished off the map. And he's like, yeah, this is going to be a big threat. I've read through the entire act. It's not just about controlling the tech. It's about controlling the people who have the tech. It's going to change everything about the way that people with cybernetics like exist in the DC universe. So we then cut to 40 days ago. Cyborg's meeting with Batman. Batman's like, I'm going to cross-reference all the reports to find people who went missing. And Cyborg's like, I already have a full list. I literally hacked into the government and did all that stuff already while you were just like thinking about it. And Batman's like, but Cyborg, that's illegal. And he's like, yeah, whoops. So he basically says, yeah, look, the legislation that is about to pass, check out this specific page on here. It specifically says that all of the technology, all of the cybernetics are going to be put into compliance. And what that means is that there is a company called Cybertech that is working with the government, and all of the cybernetics from all of these people are going to be removed and replaced with Cybertech equal parts. However, all of those equal parts come with a safety chip that can, in theory, be used as a shutdown in case techno-sapien stuff were to ever happen again, or someone's using their cybernetics for awful, evil supervillain things. But it can also just be used for like mind control purposes and can also just take control of them. So Cyborg's like, look, I feel like I'm being paranoid. Batman's like, no, you're straight up where you want to be right now. So we get a little bit more of the fight. One of the things is the senator saying like, all right, stop the superhero fight. Just get in there and grab Cyborg. We don't want him to get destroyed. So Cyborg's talking to pretty much everybody. He goes down the list here of Superman and Wonder Woman, where he's like, look, I really need to talk to you guys. Like, the act is a big problem, and like it's going to be a big deal. And Superman's like, I can't believe they passed it. Like, who would have thought the US government could do something so bad? And Wonder Woman and Cyborg both look at him like, bro, you are so naive. Then he basically says like, look, Superman, there is a reason why I do have the ability to kill you. Like, I can use sonic frequencies to scramble your brain. Your Kryptonian DNA does not protect from that. I could do that. It comes at a price. We then cut over to Aquaman, and Aquaman's basically like, look, I hear that you got a plan. It sounds very sneaky. I'm sure Batman's involved, but I'm going to back you. I'm good with whatever you want to do, Vic. And he's like, great, cool, thanks. And then we cut over to Shazam, and he's saying basically the same thing. And Shazam's like, but how do you know this plan will work? It sounds very risky. And he's like, I've run all the simulations. He's like, all right, I mean, I'll do what you say, but like, I'm not sure if it's going to work. And then we cut to him telling all of them, like, by the way, I don't want this to be public knowledge yet, but my cybernetics can also make me look like I'm a human, like 100%. The line is very blurry. This is why this act can't possibly work, because it's impossible to delineate this stuff. But I'm happy that you all have my back. So we see that whatever the hell the guy's name is jumps in, the one working for the cybernetic division, and he starts fighting against Viktor, and he's like, oh yeah, I ought to thank you, because ever since you and I fought in Techno-Sapiens, I thought everything was ruined for me, but turns out my tech got even better. And he transforms his arm into a chainsaw and cuts off Viktor's arm, and he's standing over him being like, don't worry, I didn't cut off anything more than I needed to, but if you don't surrender into custody now, I'm going to keep on chopping. And we get intercut here where he basically says, okay, yeah, fine, I surrender, I'm out, and he goes away. And then we see that the plan is for him to go away. It is that he wants to go right now. However, he does say, look, this is the only way. When they finally come for me, I need to let them take me, but I need to make it seem like they're forcing me into it. Like, it's not like I want to be taken away. So as he's taken away, Shazam looks up and be like, boy, I hope you know what you're doing, Vic. Honest to God, I like it. I really do. I feel like every time I pick up an issue of this book, I'm teleported back to issue, whatever, like 2. 3, where like it just wasn't working. It just was like, no, this is weird. We haven't properly introduced people. It doesn't feel like we're just thrown into the middle of the action and it's just not there. But then I read the issue and it's like, no, okay, we're doing something. This is something different. I'm hoping that the end result of this is not man or machine. Like, that gets a bit tiring, but I think that this is probably going to be a bit more on like discrimination and stuff like that. And I like that. I think that's a solid viewpoint to take Cyborg from. That isn't done. I mean, sure, it's done, but it's not done as frequently. So yeah, I'm going to say this one is I'll say a 7.5. Feels good. I like all the intercutting with the time stuff. I like Superman being such a Boy Scout about it, even if, I'm sure he's usually much better than that. No, 7.5. Grayson, number 18, written by Jackson Lanzing and Collin Kelly, art by Roge Antonio. So, last issue, we got the reveal that all the spies that theoretically are working with Helena to hunt down Dick and Tiger are actually going to just kill her. And Dick found that out as well. So, this issue picks up with crisis. It's a war zone. Everyone on full alert at St. Hadrian's. And as they all run out, they are met by the various different spy peoples that I definitively do not know the names of. Grayson, Grifter, Keshi, King Faraday's here, Bronze Tiger, all of them are launching various attacks upon Helena. However, they are wildly effective, especially Keshi, who comes in and just like jabs her eyes and seemingly goes to take her out so she can't use the hypnos. As she's down for the count, King Faraday is like, oh, this is one for the secret history books. We're going to take out the head of the Bertinelli crime family and Spiral all in one swoop. And that's where Tiger and Grayson come in, and they're just like, oh, we got to her just in time. She's still breathing. Dr. Nets, get her to medical care. The girls need their matron, so we'll take care of things here. So they jump into the fight. Everyone's a whole thing there. We see the Skull Girls, as they're referred to here, and they're getting prepped. They're ready to do their thing. They make an offhand mention to say that Batman and Robin Eternal happened somewhat recently. And then all of a sudden, a woman appears in their room. And she's like, hi, I'm Agent Zero. You're going to help me save the school. Take a look out there at that fight happening on the courtyards. Grayson and Tony and Agent 8 are all traitors. And they're like, Agent 8 is dead. And it's like, no, she isn't. Matron Bertinelli is dead. The others are alive, and they are working for Dr. Nets. And they're all traitors, and they're working for Leviathan. And the Skullgirls are like, why should we believe you just showed up here? Why should we buy what you're saying? And she's like, cause I brought guns and stuff. And they're all like, oh, okay. So we then see Dr. Nets takes Helena to the medical bay, and it's this horrific looking chair. However, apparently it's meant to look horrific because it encapsulates her into a sarcophagus. And she goes, oh no, what's happening? And then on the screen, the weird 3 spiral people show up, and they're like, you have returned her to the womb. We can provide her healing, but your dad's coming back. We need you to do the thing that your dad said you would do. And she's like, what? You mean perhaps become the vessel for him to come back in with my sister? That's all stupid. I don't believe in any of that. And it's like, well, it's gonna happen, so do it. And she's like, all right, Agent 8, I'm taking command of Spiral. So we cut over to the rest of the spy agencies. They're all staring down Grayson. That fight continues. It's a whole thing. And they're like, look, why don't you want to take down Spiral, we want to take down Helena. What's the problem? I feel like we're both saying the same thing here. And he's like, no, we want to take down the agency. You want to kill my friend. So that ain't gonna fly. They do a whole thing where Tony's like, hey, Bronze Tiger, how does it feel to be the 3rd best tiger around here, behind me and Tony the Tiger from Frosted Flakes commercials? And Grayson's like, oh my God, was that actually like a joke? Did you actually? Wow, that's incredible. So Grifter says that he can shoot them before they can move. Of course they move, and he doesn't shoot them. So the fight just continues on between them. We then see... I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure specifically how I'm supposed to read this here. The girls have, I believe, the new toys, and they managed to find Agent 8. However, Agent 8 is absolutely still supposed to be super secret at this point. So she's like, oh yeah, I'm so happy I get to drop the ruse. I get to finally do what I need to do. Embrace the true nature of the world. And the Skullgirls are like, screw you, we're going to fight you. And she's like, no, you won't. And she pulls out the pin on this big grenade and the whole house explodes. And Grayson's like, what the hell? You just secret villain people? I thought you said that you wanted to take out Helena. You just blew up a house with innocent kids in it. And King Faraday, it says, like, none of them are innocent. They were all part of this network. But also, that wasn't us. Like, I appreciate that someone did it, but that totally wasn't us. And then Tony's like, no, seriously, they're telling the truth. Take a look. And they both see Agent 8 standing there, and they're both gobsmacked, like, oh, but I thought she was dead. And then Tony's like, but we're all super spies, so I guess that makes sense. So at that point, Grayson's pissed off. He's like, look, we've clearly got too many ducks here. We got to take a few off. Hey, Midnighter, show up. I got a bunch of people for you to fight. So he walks in, and then all the secret spy people are like, oh, no. So Grayson goes to fight the Skullgirls, or rather, he goes to recruit them, and the Skullgirls are like, you're a traitor! And he's like, what? And they start fighting against each other. Tony goes to fight Agent 8, and Agent 8's whole thing is like, I loved you once. We could have been great together, but we both serve a higher allegiance. You try to put order into a chaotic world. I embrace the world as what it is. And Tony's like, shut up. Eventually, Grayson convinces the Skullgirls by saying, hey, when a strange woman shows up in your room that you've never heard of, and she offers you up weapons and just randomly says that we're traitors, don't believe her. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So eventually we get Tony, who is about to shoot Agent 8 in the back of the head. And she's like, you don't have the guts. You could never pull the trigger. Prove me wrong. Show me that you are that level of killer that I believed that you were. And he does not. There's no bang sound effect, but he also like closes his eyes and like seems to be at peace with something. So I don't know. And she's not on a later panel. So eventually we see that Agent Zero makes her way into the room with Dr. Netz, and they're like, oh, my sister, we have come together at last. And it's like, yes, together we can feel our father. Can you hear him in your mind? Yes, he's there so clearly. And as they like share a moment, Dr. Netz is like, I will miss you when I am gone. And she's like, excuse me? What do you mean when you're gone? Dad's gonna pick me. I'm gonna be the reincarnation of Dad. You can't do this. And they start fighting against each other. And as they're beating the crap out of each other, they hear a voice off panel that says, ho ho, don't stop on my account, my daughters. And then we see another Agent Zero, but wearing the glasses of Dr. Netz. And it's apparently the father saying, keep fighting. That's the issue. I don't know what it means. I have absolutely no idea what's happening anymore. Yeah, all of the what was his name? Luca Netz? I believe that was the original one. I don't know what any of that was. I was confused when that issue came out, and we just keep on going back to it over and over again. I'm getting the vibe, and I believe I understand that Leviathan and Spiral are two halves of the coin, and then like this is just the end point. But I also thought Agent Zero was Kate Kane, the original Batwoman. That doesn't seem to be a thing anymore. Or was it Kathy Kane? I can't remember. It's all confusing, top to bottom. I don't know how much of this is like supernatural stuff, how much of this is spy warfare, and like, what's the things in the computer? Why are they loyal to Luca Netz? What's the spider's web? I don't know. I just don't get it. I'm sure we'll have some sort of explanation at some point soon, or maybe we won't. Maybe this is very much just like Lanzing and Kelly were given the story from King and Seeley. They're like, here you go, you finish it up. We're going to be busy with other things over here. This is how it wraps up, with two different writers coming in and they're maybe doing their own thing. Maybe we're not getting the story as King and Seeley were originally planning it. I don't know. I have nothing to go off of. But this was, at certain times, feeling like padding, and at other times, confusing as hell. So I really can't say it's that good of an issue. It's just kind of here. 6.5. I like the art. Deathstroke number 16, written by James Bonny, art by Paolo Pantalena. So last issue, we're all in dead ends regarding the Rose stuff. He thinks Viktor Ruiz has betrayed him, and then Red Hood shows up. This issue picks up about 2 weeks ago, where Rose is still at home, maybe, and her friend Rachel shows up and says, "Hey, Rose, let's go on that hike. I'm a good friend of yours." And she's like, "How dare you? I know you've been working for Viktor Ruiz." And then Rachel's like, "Who?" And then we see that Outlaw is there, and he's convinced her that Rachel is evil, and so they kill Rachel, and she's just like, "Oh, I wish you didn't have to die." And I was like, "Shut up, let's go." So back to the Red Hood appearing thing. Deathstroke's trying to beat up Viktor, but Red Hood's like, "Hey, I'm a chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum." And Deathstroke's like, "What?" And he's like, "I was hired to hurt you. That's what I'm going to do." So Red Hood charges in. They start fighting. It's a whole big macho thing between the two of them. He calls Deathstroke douche stroke, because that's the level of writing we're at. And then as they're fighting, Viktor Ruiz takes off, and Deathstroke's like, "Look, I'll deal with him. He's going to be around. I got to deal with this Red Hood guy first, though." So as they're fighting, Deathstroke's like, "Look, he's young. He doesn't have as much training as I do. I should be able to beat him, but I'm still kind of recovering from the neurotoxin from snakebite from however long before. So I'm a little off my game," which is why this isn't an absolute smackdown. At one point, Red Hood picks up some garbage can lids to act as shields. Turns out doesn't do very well against actual goddamn swords. So Deathstroke knocks him on his ass. He charges in for a kill shot. And Red Hood just pulls out some guns, and Deathstroke gets shot a bunch. And he's like, "All right, yeah, to be fair, I left myself open for that. That's my fault." However, none of them are kill shots. They're all just wounds. And Deathstroke's like, "Why aren't you trying to kill me, kid?" And he's like, "Because I was hired to hurt you, not kill you. Somebody wants you to feel the pain. And, like, I wouldn't have said yes usually, but I looked into you, and you're kind of a dick." And Deathstroke's like, "Fair enough. Tell me, who hired you? Because whoever did that is probably the person who took my daughter." And he's like, "Oh, wait, hold on. What? You got a kidnapped daughter? That changes things." However, the police show up, and Red Hood's like, "All right, gotta get out of here." So he grapple hooks up to a roof. Deathstroke, not doing so hot, what with the bullet holes and all. He staggers to his feet, gets up onto a fire escape. The police are firing at him the whole time, and eventually he pulls himself up to the top of the roof and just like collapses. And Red Hood's there like, "All right, you know, you're pretty tough to be able to get up here while all that is happening." And he's like, "Let me show you how tough." And they're about to start fighting again, but Viktor Ruiz comes back, this time in a helicopter with a rocket launcher. And it looks like he's aiming that rocket launcher at Deathstroke, but it actually ends up blowing up near Red Hood, causing Red Hood to go unconscious. So Deathstroke picks him up and is like, "I need to know who hired him. That's the only lead that I can really trust right now. Screw Viktor, but like he's also the only way out of this cop situation, so I guess I'll hop up on his helicopter." So they go flying away. Viktor's like, "Hey man, what'd you bring the hero for?" And he's like, "Oh, he was hired to hurt me, and I just want to know what he knows. Anyway, what's up?" And Viktor's like, "All right, look, I got some new info. Turns out Rose, credible threat. She's in Montana." And Deathstroke's like, "Nice." Punches Viktor in the face, knocks him out, and tells the driver of the helicopter, "All right, continue on to Montana." So when they get there, Deathstroke steps out and he like crumples over a little bit. He's like, "Okay, my healing factor's been pushed a bit too hard recently. I am barely holding this together." Viktor steps out and he's like, "Hey, look, I get it. You're pissed with me. I'm still going to watch your back." And he's like, "Nope, I don't trust you, Viktor. Don't do it. Stay out of my way." So they are walking through this ghost town like nobody's there. And then all of a sudden appearing on the church steeple is Snakebite. And he's like, "Hello, Deathstroke, you have returned. It is I, Snakebite." And he's like, yeah, I know who you are." And he's like, "Looks like you're still recovering from my neurotoxin. Nobody's ever survived that before." And he's like, "Yeah, well, it's not any worse than my normal hangovers." So they just bicker a little bit. They're basically saying like, "Yeah, you stopped me from killing Waller, therefore you're on my shit list." And Deathstroke's like, "Whatever, tell me where my daughter is." And wouldn't you know it, Viktor Ruiz literally stabs Deathstroke in the back. And he's like, "Viktor, why?" And he's like, "Sorry, man, the money was too good." And Snakebite comes down, and we see a pair of feet walk into frame, saying he will die by the hand of justice. So says Lawman, and your dear daughter, Rose, who's in like full Ravager costume thing, whatever. Yeah, okay. That's to be clear, that's the end of the trade. Like, the trade just cuts off there. We do have another one, obviously, that has like a couple issues in it, but like, what are we doing? I don't like. Okay, however this story ends, whoever Lawman is, whatever like injustice was put against Deathstroke and Lawman and whatever else sort of stuff like that, this was padding. Like, all of this previous stuff here just feels like padding. If you wanted to have Viktor betray Deathstroke, fine. You can have that. You can easily have that moment. I'm not saying you can't. But going to Belle Reve, going to Metropolis, unless we're going to say that that stuff is absolutely required for the big plan that Lawman had, I do not buy that, like, the past 3 issues, especially the Red Hood stuff, is not just padding. This entire arc feels like it was meant to be a 2-issue, maybe a 3-issue thing, but instead it's been stretched out to the end of the series. And that's okay in some circumstances, but here, because Deathstroke doesn't feel like he has a normal story, like he doesn't have a normal status quo that we can fall back on, this just feels like, what are we doing for months on end? It's not a horrible read implicitly. I will say the Red Hood writing is not great, but I'm used to Red Hood's writing not being great, so it doesn't really stand out that much. 6.5. I can't say it's good, but it's here, and we'll finish it somehow. Teen Titans number 18, written by Greg Pak, art by Ian Churchill and Tom Derenick. So last issue, the whole Wonder Girl arc started. Cassandra from Wonder Woman lore showed up, says, "I'm your aunt. Let's go meet your dad. I'm going to bring him back to life because he's dead and decapitated." And they crashed Wonder Woman's apartment, and then Wonder Woman showed up at the end. So Wonder Woman here has Red Robin and Lasso of Truth being like, "All right, can I trust you, Robin? You cool? Like, I don't know you, but we don't have a lot of time." She's like, "Yeah, you're Wonder Woman. You can totally trust me." And by the way, it's not Robin, it's Red Robin. I'm different from the other one. She's like, "There's a lot of you." And he's like, "Yeah, no, that's fair." So he explains the situation. Wonder Girl and his team were teleported away by Cassandra. She said something about a head on a mantelpiece being her father and how they want to resurrect her father. And Wonder Woman's like, "That's cute. She's the one who killed him, or at least was massively responsible for it." So we cut to whatever weird-ass Airbus they're flying in. And all the Teen Titans, except for Wonder Girl, are attacking Cassandra. And it seems mostly like it's Bunker's bricks that are doing the hard work here. And they're like, "You're clearly evil. You've got evil hyena men that attacked us. Like, this is all textbook evil villain stuff. And, like, you didn't bring Red Robin either. What's that all about?" And she's like, "Well, first off, I can't help that my loyal servants happen to be hyena men. That's just what they are. As for Red Robin, I was picking up some serious negative vibes from him, and so yeah, I didn't choose to teleport him because he seemed a bit rude." And Cassandra's like, "Yeah," or Cassie, I guess I should say, since there's a difference. Cassie's like, "Yeah, you guys did just show up out of nowhere and keep yelling at me." It's like, "We weren't yelling, we were trying to help you." So Raven tries to look into Cassandra's mind, and it's just like, nah, she's messed up. She's got some messed up, like, I can't read her mind, but there's this like aura of darkness. She ain't cool. She's not great. But then she's like, "Oh, but see, I knew you had a mind reader, and so I'm totally open to like answering any of the questions. Let me tell you about your father, Lennox, Cassie. He was technically my like half brother. He took me under his wing, and I was born with the power to control mortals with my voice." Very tempting stuff. And then we cut over to Wonder Woman, who's telling the exact same story to Red Robin, but like more of a negative connotation. And he's just like, "Yeah, Lennox said that she killed 40 people and just like had them kill each other just because she could. They're following a chip that Bunker has on him in order to get there." So it's like, "Yeah, so Lennox took away my voice. He replaced it with, when Lennox took away her voice, ripped out her throat, replaced it with mechanics. And therefore, it's like, yeah, so, you know, it was for my own good. That's what he said. But it didn't change my problem that I'm a little bit crazy and a little unhinged. So I schemed and boozed around for a while, and I came up with this plan. And that plan was the Firstborn. And this is all covered in Wonder Woman. But he's basically, yeah, and then that got really, really out of hand, and the Firstborn killed Lennox. And Cassandra seems to have genuine regret over that because he was the only one who ever really cared to, like, try to improve her life. So basically says, like, yeah, we are given these immense powers, but we still just have the minds of humans. That's the problem of demigods, is that, like, how are we supposed to handle that? So at that point, Cassie's like, okay, well, I mean, that's a lot. That is a lot you're asking me to believe here. And she's like, right, but I want to bring your brother, my half-brother, your father, back to life. And the other Teen Titans are like, hey, look, whatever problems you got, we can help you figure it out. We can do whatever. And she's like, right, but like daddy issues. And like, he said that he would tell me things and then he never did. And I kind of want to do that. And it's like, okay, well, like Raven's the daughter of a demon. I don't even know where I come from. So like, who cares? But Cassandra eventually is just like, look, I understand you like everyone, no one else in the world. He named you after me. My name's Cassandra, your name's Cassie, isn't that a thing? And she's like, oh my God, it must be true. So she starts crying. Cassandra's like, oh yeah, see, so get me out of these purple brick things. They end up colliding with something, God only knows what, and Bunker loses concentration. Cassandra gets out, and it looks like she's, you know, being attacked by the Titans, but the Titans are like, now hold on everyone, I'm not the enemy. We're here to get an ancient thing that is the rod of Asclepius, which is the god of medicine. It's buried here under this temple of Apollo that happens to be guarded by giant snakes. And the giant snakes are the ones that are currently knocking them off their Airbus. So they all start trying to fight against the snakes as best they can. Wonder Girl pulls out the silent armor. She starts slicing through the snakes. And Cassandra's like, where was this? How long were you going to keep this a secret? Jesus. But she recognizes Cassie's holding back, and she's like, no, you're the daughter of a god. Like, you're a goddess yourself. Trust yourself. Don't hold back. Do what you got to do. She cuts through the spiders to help for your friends, but then eventually she loses control and ends up crashing into a nearby cliffside, causes a massive amount of boulders and rubble to fall not only on the Titans, but also on just random passerbys. And just before it all hits the ground, in comes a swoosh, and there's Wonder Woman. She's like, hey, Wonder Girl, right? And Cassie's like, I didn't, if you're here for trademark stuff, I didn't choose that name. And Red Robin's like, yeah, that's on me. Sorry. And she's like, well, you've got the name. So first things first, live up to it. Don't let civilians get into danger, whatever. Wonder Woman looks across the field, sees Cassandra, and just like, all right, we're gonna have words. And she's charging at her, punches out the hyena man, punches Cassandra in the face, and Cassandra's like, she gets a gun out, and she's like, hey, you're gonna ruin everything. Don't interfere with this. And Wonder Woman's just so pissed. She's like, after everything with the Firstborn, I vouched for you. I had you not killed by Hera. And what are you doing? You're messing it all up again. And she's like, no, I swear to God, I'm doing something different. And she looks over this cliffside and she sees that the rod of Asclepius has shown up. And she goes down to reach for it. But Wonder Woman ties her up in the lasso. And she's unable to get to it before it magically disappears. So she hauls Cassandra back up to the top, and all the Teen Titans are like, hey, no, like, she's cool. Like, don't worry about it. And she's like, no, we're going to make her tell the truth. Cassandra, what exactly are you doing here? Why did you come here? And she's like, I'm here to help revive Lennox. I'm here to do that. And because the lasso's active, one of them's like, oh, damn, really? Okay, then yeah, we cool. Well, I'll help you out. And she's like, shall we help our niece together? And Cassie's face lights up like, I'm Wonder Woman's niece too? And she's like, yeah, I guess. Anyway, let's go. Road trip. So, I mean, this book has a lot of issues left. This isn't like wrapping up anytime soon, I don't think, but I'm okay with it. I appreciate the larger world aspect that it plays with. Obviously, Azzarello, his whole run was setting up all this stuff, but then the other writers didn't want to do anything with it. They were just like, yeah, no, we're done with it. It's nice that it's able to be played with elsewhere. It's nice to be able to take this continuity and say, okay, well, we established that Cassie was Lennox's daughter somewhere along the way. Why don't we explore that? Why don't we just take that little pin out and say, okay, what does that mean? And then just do something with it. That's the beauty of having a shared universe like this, is you can set those pins up or even just leave it open-ended, and some other writer can come in and say, I think this is what happens. And then there you go. Sometimes it's garbage, but not all the time. I'm going to say this one is I'll say 7. I was a little bit iffy on some of the art. I won't say which artist, mainly because I don't know, but some of the art was a little bit dicey for me. The writing, though, I think is pretty good, and I don't really have much of a problem with that. So yeah, 7. Suicide Squad Most Wanted Deadshot and Katana number 3, specifically the Deadshot story, we have written by Brian Buccellato with art by Viktor Bogdanovic. Previous issue, Deadshot straight up murdered his mom and was going to do the same to his dad, but wouldn't you know it, he died just a little bit too soon because he also hated his dad. This issue picks up with, I guess, Amanda Waller's SWAT team, not quite the Suicide Squad, are casing the Lawton estate, and they're like, yeah, okay, we got to find Deadshot. This is messed up. Oh, also at the end of the previous issue, there was the reveal that Deadshot's daughter has been effectively put into like a foster community and may or may not know Deadshot's entire villainous origin. So as they're casing the place, Waller's like, if you find him, do not engage. That is an absolute order. We're on our way right now. And we is left very nebulous. They surround the house. They look around. They see whatever. Deadshot, however, apparently pried open the safe and found out that it only took $12,000 to be able to pay off his daughter's mother to basically disappear and not have a claim to the Lawton family fortune, which apparently is substantial. And because of that, she had nowhere else to turn when the mom kind of didn't do her job. The child was put into foster care. And what pisses off Deadshot the most is that Amanda Waller knew all of this and did not tell him. Was absolutely just, nope, nothing, never gave me a chance to be right by my daughter. So he eventually goes down to his father's gun vault. Turns out his dad just loved collecting guns. He didn't hunt. He never went on safaris, but by God did he love guns. And he never killed a thing, which is why Deadshot finds it so ironic. If only he could see him now. We then see, as the SWAT team's creeping around, Deadshot's got a minigun, or something that approximates it. And as he's taken out SWAT members, he does aim for kneecaps and shoulders, and not quite lethal places. But that's not immediately apparent to the SWAT team, as one of them is like holding up the fist to say like, do not engage, that's our order. And then he gets a shot right through the hand. Deadshot pops over their comms and says like, hey guys, Deadshot here. Pull back now, and I promise I won't kill any of the rest of you. I only got one person I got beef with, and that's when Waller pops on being like, I assume you're talking about me. And just like, yep, absolutely. I blame you for what's happened to my daughter, and oh, wait, hold on. Bang, shoots another soldier that's moving. And he's like, look, you're not my coworker. I don't owe you favors. And he's like, it wasn't a favor to me, it was a favor to her. And she's like, whatever. You're a tool. In every sense of the word. I'm not going to care about whatever happens to you. I'm just going to use your tools or use your skills. And that's where we get the Suicide Squad, who is en route with her, consisting of Cheetah, Boomerang, El Diablo, and Harley Quinn. And they all are like told the mission, like, okay, get in there, take out Deadshot. And they're like, but wait a minute, hold on, Deadshot's one of us. Is that cool? And Boomerang's like, yes, it is. And him and Cheetah just immediately jump off, like, yep, whatever. We got bombs on our neck. Do whatever we have to do. Diablo's like, nah, I don't know. This doesn't seem right. Harley, you feeling that? And she's like, no, I'm not sure. So Diablo walks over to Waller, and Waller's like, the only reason I put you on this team is because you wanted to prove that you were worth it. I will put you back in the hole if you don't do your job here. He's like, so I need to either kill Floyd Lawton or I go back in the hole. She's like, yep. And he's like, all right, I'll go back in the hole. He's like, all right, whatever, fine. Well, Harley, you in or out? And she looks hesitant, but we follow Boomerang and Cheetah as they're on their way down. Boomerang gets one of his boomerangs ready. Floyd just shoots it out of his hand, and he's like, all right, well, screw that. And he throws 3 of them in. Apparently, they're like stunned and gas and whatever. And Lawton's like, I know exactly what the play here is. I wrote this play. So he readies a double-barrel elephant gun just right in Cheetah's face, pulls the trigger. Because of her mystic power, she survives, but she's going to be out of the fight for a while. And then he just shoots Captain Boomerang in the elbow, because you can't throw a boomerang without bending your elbow. So that's it there. He calls out to Waller again, just being like, all right, come on, Waller, me and you, let's settle this, let's do it. And a feminine figure comes out of the smoke. It's Harley, and she's just basically playing the doctor, like, hey, you know, I'm in here, you clearly got some issues you're working through. How's that all going for you? She's like, Harley, what are you doing here? Come on, let's not play this game. And he's like, hey, look, how do you think this is all going to end? And he's like, I'm going to be in a coffin. I'm going to be dead, but I'm taking Amanda Waller with me. And Harley's like, that's very optimistic. But she's definitely going to blow the bomb in your neck first. And he's just like, yeah, it's for my daughter. I don't care. Like, she let my daughter go into foster care without, like, so much as even telling me, like, making her think that she's all alone in this world. I'm not going to let Waller get away with that. And Harley's like, okay, fair enough. Look, you've got a way better chance of helping your daughter if you're alive instead of being killed by Waller. So how about we run that instead? So Deadshot hesitates. He's like, all right, fine, let's go. And they both step out. And as soon as they get into an open area, Deadshot takes like 7 bullets in every extremity. He's just down. And we see that it's that Evans guy, the other sharpshooter from the other mission. So Deadshot fades out. When he comes back, he is all sorts of messed up. He's in a hospital bed. Waller's standing over him being like, look, doctors say you may never walk again. You're going to be spending the rest of your life in the cement box. And he's like, so why not just let me die? Huh? You could have killed me right then. Why am I still here? And she's like, there are other ways I can use you. I've got big plans for you. And he's like, well, I'm never going to go out on another mission, even if I can walk again. Like, you can't make me. And she's like, we'll see about that. See, your problem is, like, you keep thinking that you're a George, but you're actually a Lenny. Like, you're not in control of this here. So she walks out, and he promises that he's going to kill her one day. And then we see Evans comes in, and Evans is like, hey, you stole my backstory. And Floyd's like, what? And he's like, that whole thing, your original backstory, the one where it's like drug dealers were shooting through the wall and you promised you'd never waste a bullet. You heard me talking about that 10 years ago. We shared some time in lockup, but I guess you don't remember that. You stole my backstory. And he's like, oh my God, so what? What is that's what you're so upset about? That? I don't know what to tell you. And he's just like, look, I looked up to you, man. You were the best of the best. You were the absolute top of it. But I wanted to come in here and prove myself that I could be on the same level as you. I wanted to be you. And Deadshot's just like, son of a bitch. Like, you were always going to be my replacement, weren't you? And he puts on a helmet. It looks exactly like Deadshot's outfit, but it's in blue. And he's like, I don't know. You tell me. Red's not my color. And that's it. That's where we leave off. I like it. I don't think I like it quite as much as last issue. Last issue was just like amazingly well done for the pathos of the character. This one, good, very solid, but it does kind of feel like a bridging issue. I like it though. I'd say 8. I think it's easily at that point. I was just debating an 8.5. I don't think it's quite there, but 8 for sure. Suicide Squad, Most Wanted, Deadshot and Katana number 3, specifically the Katana part, written by Mike W. Barr, art by Diogenes Neves. So last issue, Katana got captured by Lady Eve, I believe voluntarily, and then the Suicide Squad showed up. Or at least some version of them, because this is wacky, definitely different Suicide Squad. So as Lady Eve is shouting at them like, who are you to come in here and trifle with such forces? They're like, oh, we're the Suicide Squad, consisting of Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, totally normals, Enchantress, a little bit weird, Heatstroke and Cold Snap sharing a roster spot, and Battle Axe, who I believe's only role is that she has a battle axe. So Lady Eve's like, all right, Cobra agents, my Black Adders attack. So it's a big fight between Cobra agents and the Suicide Squad. Katana's trying to escape from her ropes. Turns out the little girl, Anna, shows up and she's like, hey, I showed up again. I snuck out when the snake lady let me go. I'm here to help. And then we see Boomerang comes up being like, little girl, what are you doing here? Get out of here. I'm going to be the real help. He smacks away the girl, cuts out Katana. And then we just see the Suicide Squad doing their thing. We see Cold Snap and Heatstroke using cold and hot powers. Harley's got her big mallet. Chantress can make shields or whatever. Eventually, we see that Lady Eve is using Katana's sword, so Katana just walks over and kicks her in the face and says, you touch that sword again and I'm going to kill you. Actually, you know what? I'm going to kill you anyway. And then there's a big explosion. It turns out the cavalry, we're in Markovia, the army has shown up, and the entire Cobra float's like, damn, all right, we're done. Everyone retreat, we're out. So they start running. Katana goes over to like the head tank in charge and just like, yo, I could have killed her right now. Who the hell are you to have such authority? And he takes off the mask of, I don't know, goggles or whatever and says like, oh, I'm the prince of all these forces. I'm Brian Markov. Who the hell are you? And he's like, oh, I'm Katana. I'm with the Justice League. I'm not associated with these Suicide Squad flunkies. And it's like, hey, who you calling flunkies? And also, we can neither confirm nor deny if the Suicide Squad exists in any official capacity. And he's like, all right, well, you're clearly American stuff, American government interference, whatever. And just like, I wouldn't say that, but maybe. So at that point, they're all talking and like, Brian's just basically saying like, oh, yes, we need you to keep your team in line. But Katana hears Anna screaming out for help. And she walks up and the cat is not moving. And she's like, God, no, not my cat. And she passes the cat over to a field medic who says, yes, we'll take care of it. It's going to be okay. Brian comforts Anna saying like, oh, little girl, until we can find your family, you'll be living in my royal palace. And he's like, oh, okay, yes, please. And then Boomerang is laughing that Katana cares so much about a cat, and she just breaks his nose. So there's that. Battle Axe is happy that someone broke Boomerang's nose, and she's like, Katana, me and you, we got something in common. And Katana's like, no, we don't. Don't ever talk to me. So Deadshot calls into Waller, basically says, hey, we got ID. We know that Katana's there with the Soul Taker, and Waller's like, all right, well, you guys just keep doing what you're doing. Don't interfere with her as long as she's on sides, but we need that sword. Get that sword back to us. So we cut to the Castle Markov, the military base of the country, and we see Brian's there basically being like, okay, so like the Suicide Squad has plausible deniability, but we all know you're part of the American government and like you're here for whatever, we'll deal with it. You're here. Cool. We've got a experimental plant on a volcanic island nearby that we lost contact with. We were going to send our own forces, but if you guys with your special ops powers or whatever can do something cool, go for it. Go nuts. Get on in there. And like his own guys are like, are you sure we should be sending like these guys just seem like crazy? And it's just like, they can take the risk, whatever. Better than our own people. We then see Lady Eve gets over to Lord Cobra, who's like, hey, did you get the gift I got you? And she's like, oh, yes, the woman. She's addicted and she's very pliable, and I'm sure we'll do something with her. Thanks for that, whatever that means. And then we see that an infrared scan that Lord Cobra has done reveals the bombs and all the Suicide Squad's next. And he's like, I'm thinking we could have fun with this. So we cut over to Volcanic Island. They raft in. They like destroy the boats, and they're like, "Hey, how are we supposed to get off the island?" So we destroy the boats. And it's like, I don't know, but we got to get rid of the evidence. Cold Snap and Heatstroke are apparently like a couple, and they're just hesitant. They're like, "Are we really up for this? Are we on this same sort of level that we can do this like infiltration to figure out what happened to this island?" It's like, yeah, sure, why not? So they go a little deeper into the island. They come across some Cobra agents. Boomerang isn't dicking around. He throws some knockout gas boomerangs and it's just like, great, cool. We took out one troop. How are we supposed to take out an entire island's worth? And that's where Deadshot's like, all right, everyone pick a guy, take their armor. We're just going to walk around looking like a troop. Soldiers don't ask questions, so no big deal. They get into the power plant, inside a volcano thing that seems like it's not supposed to be there, but regardless, they figure out that they're diverting the lava to do something nefarious. And like, just to point out how bad they are at their job, Boomerang is wearing his boomerang beanie over top of the armor. So like, it's very visible. Immediately they're caught and everyone's like, hey, you, what are you doing here? And all firefight breaks out. They ditch the armor immediately. In order to escape, they duck into a tunnel, to which point one of the guys like, oh, that's our lava diverting tunnel. Flood it. So immediately a bunch of lava starts pouring in. They realize that there are some explosives that were given to them by the Markovian people. So they put that in the tunnel, set it off with one of boomerangs, and they collapse the tunnel. The pressure is too great with all the lava just in open flow, and so the entire power plant explodes with lava, killing like everyone on the island. They start running their way down the tube, but it is still incredibly hot. For some reason, Heatstroke is the first person to get Heatstroke. She collapses. Cold Snap tries to grab hold of her, and his hands just like burn instantly. For some reason, though, Katana's able to pick her up, and it's like, all right, come on, we got to get her out of here. They reach the end of the tunnel. They climb up a ladder. It looks like daylight. They're all safe, but standing at the top, right outside of Castle Markovia, is King Cobra, who's like, hey, Katana, great to see you. That's the issue. I mean, look, if you're going to use your Suicide Squad, it's good to have them around. I'm okay with that in that context of like, okay, this book was credited as Suicide Squad Most Wanted. And then you had Katana for 2 full issues not having the Suicide Squad anywhere around. I'm glad that we brought them in, and it's not just they're here so that we can have something to fight, and then they piss off. Like, that's annoying. I hate when the Suicide Squad shows up for just that. This feels a little bit better. I'll admit the team makeup is very weird, but, you know, you do you. And then, yeah, don't hurt the cat. The cat made me upset. Don't do that. So I'm going to say it's barely squeaking by a 7 for me. It's good. It's okay. It's just not great. We Are Robin, number 10, written by Lee Bermejo, art by Jorge Corona and Rob Haynes. So last issue, it was basically a whole lot of stuff of what each of the different Robins are up to, some interstitials on that, and then more so on this Smiley character, how he is a pertinent threat that needs to be dealt with. This issue is the exact same thing. So we pick up with a in-phone video, like we see the screen with the recording going on. It's at a stand-up improv night, and Smiley comes out and he's like, hey, everyone's my first open mic. You know, I was told that I gotta come in quick and drop a major joke so that hecklers don't jump in. You know, I gotta pull it out fast like a gun. Yeah, look, this guy's already heckling. And like the guy's like, what? No, I didn't say a word. He's like, oh, look at this guy. He's trying to eat up all the mic time. Guess I got to pull a gun. And then he pulls out a gun and he's threatening the audience with it. And you hear shots firing as he's screaming. The video goes viral. Like, it's hitting up all the things. We see a couple of the Robins, like Sugar and some other ones I don't know, are like, hey, did you see that video? It's messed up. This guy, this Bender kid who's Smiley, like, do we know him? Does anybody within the Robins know anything about him to be able to take him down? Like, the cops aren't going to do anything. They're more focused on the Robins and all that stuff. Like, how are we going to be able to help this? And Sugar is like, I don't know, like, everyone's been MIA since the Robin arrest, but maybe it is time to get the band back together. And then this issue just once again cuts around to everybody. We see what they're doing. Everyone's a little bit morose. We open up with Duke, who is trying to help care for his parents by like helping them eat or whatever. His dad's complaining that they don't have enough pillows. And again, this whole time they're jokerized, like they're all messed up. His mom ends up actually biting him. And then on the news, he hears, you know, Smiley and the Joker's group and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, there's a citywide manhunt. If anyone has any information as to his whereabouts, they should contact the police immediately. And Duke gets up, he puts his hand on his dad's shoulder, and then runs out of the building. We cut to Rico, who is inside of a karate class, a dojo, and she's doing some sparring with a guy and is going way too hard. She is absolutely going to break something in this guy's spine. And he's like just doing everything to dodge as fast as possible. Eventually, the sensei comes up and is like, Rico, what's going on? She's like, I'm in control. And she's like crying, just blubbering mess. So she runs out in a huff. We cut to Izzy. who's working the restaurant for her parents, and there's this guy who's complaining about how long it took, that she got his order wrong, all this stuff, and she's like, nah, screw this, so we're not sticking around for this subpar service, we're getting out of here. And as he's getting up to leave, she's like, okay, well, sir, you paid for the drinks, you drank the drinks, you gotta pay for them. And he's like, oh, well, we're paying for them, and he's starting to raise up a little bit of stink. The mom's like, sorry, sir, drinks are on the house, you're fine to go. And as he gets a bit snappy with her mom, saying like, look, I'm sorry I messed up the order, all that, but I'm exhausted. I have to stay up until 3 a.m. doing my homework because you're making me work here and doing all that stuff. And the mom starts snapping back, saying like, oh, when me and your father first got here, we were 3 jobs to care of you and your brother. And she's like, yeah, well, you weren't going to college and you're like on the verge of being kicked out for it. Do you want me to end up like Hector, stuck in the city? And she's like, don't you dare mention his name. So Izzy runs out in a huff. We then cut over to Dax and Dre. Dax ends up, I can't actually remember which one's Dax. I think Dax goes over to Dre's house and is like, hey, man, your mom home? He's like, no. Why? You looking for her too? Because I'm sure she would take a turn with you. And Dax is like, that's weird. Anyway, no, you haven't returned my message. He's like, I've been busy. And he basically just like talks down to Duke, saying like, yeah, so Duke gave up, saying he didn't want to be Robin, then everyone else did as well. Like, screw them, I don't need any of that stuff. I've been working. And Dax's like, okay, well, yeah, so have I. Like, I haven't given up. I've been working on some stuff. I want you to see this. And as they go back into Dre's room, we see that he is that vigilante. He's got the mask and all that stuff on. He's like, yeah, I'm doing this alone. Like, I'm a lone wolf. I don't need the cubs to watch after. And Dax is like, hey, man, I know you think you have to do this alone, but like, you're not your dad. You can keep other people. You don't have anything to prove. And he's like, oh yeah, look who's talking, Mr. Daddy Issues. And Dax is like, I told you that in confidence. Don't you throw that back at me. And then all of a sudden there's like a Twitter alert and it goes out to everyone. And they're basically saying like, hey, any of you Robins down in Middletown, what do you know about this John Bender kid? Like, anybody know anything? And Duke chimes in saying like, yeah, I guess we can know that. And it's like, cool. How do we stop them? And Duke's like, what do you mean we? And she's like, yeah, we. Come on. So we see Dre gets his costume on. He jumps out of the room. Dax follows suit. Duke goes down to a woman named Angela. I'll admit, I completely forgot if this was a plot point from before. It doesn't ring any bells. But it turns out that Bender's sister was staying with Angela the night that he killed his parents. And Angela's like, oh, hey, Duke, like, you finally coming around here? Just like, yeah, sorry, I'm looking for Tiffany, which is the sister's name. Do you know where I can find her? It's like, oh, now you want to talk to Tiffany. Tiffany, after she's gone through all this, and be like, yeah, well, I wanted to tell her how sorry I was. And so it's like, yeah, well, she's with her grandparents, and you should have been more concerned about her before. And just like, look, I'm sorry. Her brother was crazy. I just didn't expect this to happen. So it's like, yeah, well, if you got something you want to say, maybe talk to the police about it. And he's like, yeah, well, I've got beef with Smiley. It's like, yeah, everyone has beef with Smiley, and I don't want any part of it. So we follow a couple of Joker's kids, like people part of the gang, who got a call from Smiley that they're supposed to meet at an abandoned building with a hole in it. And he's just like, well, there's tons of those. How do we know the one? And he's like, we'll know when we see it. And we see Dre's listening in on this conversation. And as we get to Smiley's little meeting, there's a ton of kids, teens, whatever you want to call them, all dressed in Joker gear, all listening to him. And he's basically saying like, people say I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. The world is crazy. I'm just fighting against the crazy world. And the news calls it a crime spree. They call it terrorism. I call it re-education. Let's show the world just how crazy they are, and we'll get them back to the way they're supposed to be. And basically, I hesitate to say this for just like demonetization purposes. He's basically saying, we're going to re-educate them at the school. Pick up your writing utensils. And he gestures over to an entire rack of heavy guns and explosives and stuff like that. And Dre, who's taken off his mask to like blend in a little bit, he's like, oh my God, this is what they're, oh Jesus. And a couple of the guys are like, hey, wait a minute, you don't have any makeup. Like, what's going on here? So looks like he's a little bit caught in it, but he lies. He managed to get out of it. Dax, meanwhile, sees all this happening from an adjacent rooftop. He gets on the chat and he's like, guys, Dre's in over his head. We saw some crazy stuff here. Something bad is definitely going to happen. Meanwhile, everyone's getting up, getting ready for school, except for Izzy, who is just sobbing in bed. As they all get to the high school, they all get to their classes. Duke tries to flag down Rico. she's not having anything of it. Just like, hey, did you see all those messages yesterday? Did you get all that? And she's like, yeah, I did. And it's like, oh, what should we do about it? It's like, I don't know. Maybe you and Izzy, because you've been hanging out so much. It's like, what? I mean, yes, we have been, but what? Like, that's not a thing. We're friends. And before anything else can happen, we hear a voice at the door, and it's Smiley. And he's saying, like, I was once asked whether or not I believed in the devil. I said, no, he's just like Santa Claus. I know because they're both my daddy. And it's a bunch of jokers with a bunch of weapons. And whoo, boy. I know that it's never not been a thing, but it's like, I didn't expect them to come out swinging this hard. I'm really, really curious how far they're going to take it in the next issue, because, like, that's going to be a thing. I mean, I don't hate it. I look at how this series is only 12 issues, and I just wish that we weren't spending so much time on them being apart. Like, I like the dynamics that were set up so much in the first half of this, and especially during like Robin War and stuff like that, where it really felt like they were coming into their own, and then we have to spend the whole back half of this series with them being broken up, and that just, it sucks. Like, I want them to be a team, and the fact that we're not going to probably get that until issue, like halfway through issue 11, and then most of issue 12. And then that's it. Like, We Are Robin does not exist past that point. It is done. It is gone. And that's just a little bit depressing for the team dynamic. I would have wanted it to be just a little bit more. In terms of rating, I'll say a 7.5. It's okay. It's good. I just can't get it up to that great. It's just in concept, I feel like this arc had so much promise with the Smiley stuff, but instead we've been wasting it on but kids can't be superheroes because they've got problems. It's like, well, yeah. We ignore that part. That's the part that makes it okay. Like, you can have both. That's the drama. So, I don't know, 7.5. Secret Six, number 12, written by Gail Simone, art by Dale Eaglesham and Tom Derenick. So, last issue, we have Lady Shiva showing up to try to get Strix, get her to join the League of Assassins, do whatever else there. And Batgirl's also around because she has a history with Strix. So this issue picks up with a one-page just Scandal Savage and her two wives are talking about how in love they are and how much they're happy for this relationship. And I guess they're talking about having kids, but they need a donor. And Scandal's like, well, I've got one guy in mind, but I kind of don't want him tied to us for the rest of time. And one of the wives is like, I get what you're saying. He's pretty, but I don't think he'd be good. And then we cut over to Catman, and that stuff doesn't matter. It's not part of the story. We see Catman's trying to get on the phone with literally anybody who's currently back at home with Strix, trying to get her out of there before Lady Shiva shows up. However, we see that Shiva is already like outside the house and has beaten up Big Shot, has beaten up Verdi. Cops have arrived, and the cop is just like, all right, crazy lady, you got all these swords or whatever, but I got a gun. So how about you just put your hands up and we'll take you down? And she's not complying. So he's like, all right, I'll give it to the count of 3. 1, 2. And then Shiva just takes out all the cops. Like, there's at least 4 of them there. She just immediately just ruins all of them. One of them goes running and leaves her gun behind. And she says, oh, the loudest din comes from the tamest heart. As Catman finally gets up to the house, just being like, hey, I'm out front. Someone's coming. Someone bad. Come on, get out here. Turns out Shiva's just there waiting. And just like, oh, never mind. She's here. Inside, Porcelain is talking to Strix, being like, hey, Catman was on the phone. He is scared. I've never heard him scared. We got to run. And Strix starts writing down stuff. So it's like, no, like, we did no time for that. We got to go. But Strix writes down run where. Basically to say, like, where could we possibly go? So Catman and Batgirl square off, just like, all right, who wants to take her? Which one's going to do it? And Shiva's like, why do you, like, it's no concern of you why I want her. Like, I'm going to take her regardless, but if you want to fight, then fine, we'll fight. Strix and Porcelain come out. They got their gear on, at least enough of it to qualify as gear. And as all 4 of them are squaring off, Strix is getting over next to Batgirl, and Batgirl's like, oh yeah, don't worry, I'm staying, I'm joining the fight. And she passes over a note saying, hey, I heart your yellow boots. I love them. They look great. And Batgirl's like, oh, thanks. So Catman pushes the women aside, just being like, I got this. And then they push him back, being like, right, yeah, sorry. And everyone charges into Shiva at once, and they summarily, immediately get their asses handed to them. And as Shiva's like about to kill Catman, got her pole to his throat, it's just like, Strix, I'm with the League of Assassins. We want you to join. We really don't like Court of Owls. We were hoping to get Calvin Rose. Remember him? We can't get him, so we're settling for you. You in? Every one of your friends is alive, but I can kill him if you don't. Like, I promise your safety I can't promise your safety if you join, but I can promise theirs. And she stands off for a second. She was just like, all right, go ahead, choose. You got like 5 seconds. And she writes down the note saying, I'll go. And Batgirl and Catman are like, damn it. I mean, that's her choice. Like, she's choosing to do this. But Batgirl's like, no, like, you don't have to do it. We can take her. Like, seriously, we can do this. And Strix is like, no, you can't. Like, we both know that. It's better this way. And Batgirl's like, okay, all right, well, I want you to have this. And she takes off her yellow boots, passes them over to Strix, being like, you're walking a dangerous path. I'm hoping that this will help you along the way. And they hug, they say goodbye. Porcelain's like, hey, remember, you've always got a place with us. We'll keep the light on for you. You never have to stay. And Shiva's like, actually, she totally does. And League of Assassins is going to beat all of this sentimental crap out of her. So let's go. And as Strix is walking away, Catman talks to Batgirl and is just like, you call us bad guys. And like, I've never once felt bad until right now. So in the car, Shiva's just like, yeah, no, Court of Owls sucks. Like, whatever they did to you, it's horrible, it's awful. League of Assassins, we're going to be, like, strict, we're going to be tough, but, like, you're going to make friends there. We're going to be cool, like, as long as you are okay with being friends with murderers, like, absolutely the most brutal killers possible. But if you're going to cry over anything, all that emotion, you got to get that out now. And so Strix starts crying. And she says, oh, the tamest din comes from the loudest heart. So Catman tries to like console Batgirl, saying like, hey, she made her choice, it's whatever. And just like, yeah, I know. Look, if they have their way, the next time we see her, she's not even going to remember us. And Porcelain's like, do you want some shoes before you leave? And she's like, nah, screw that. I'm good. I'm fine. This all sucks. I'm out of here. So she takes off. Eventually, there's a voice coming in from the side for Catman and Porcelain saying like, hey, what's going on here? But we don't see who it is yet. So we cut to a helicopter awaiting to take off for them. Shiva points to 3 men saying like, these are some of my best men. They're here for whatever you need. And Strix just beats the ever-loving crap out of all 3 of them immediately. And she was like, okay, all right, well, let's get going. She did bring along her garden gnome, in case you were concerned. So back at home, Catman and Porcelain are nursing their wounds. Big Shot, ventriloquist and Alice get back and just like, hey, what's going on? Where's Strix? We got your kids. What's going on? And he's like, she left. She chose to leave. Like, she wasn't taken. She chose to leave in order to save us. And all the other ones are like, all right, well, let's go. Let's get her back. Like, this is what we do. We gotta like save our family, do all that stuff. And even Ferdy's just like, yeah, I'll screw him some new eye holes. And there's like, okay, weird for you to say that, Ferdy. Usually you don't care about anybody. But before they get too into it, Catman's like, Ralph, listen, hey, she made the choice. If we go against the League of Assassins, some of us will die. And he's like, okay, that literally has not stopped us before. But then Porcelain's like, you might want to put the pause button because you might have something you don't want to lose. And they like gesture upstairs, and he realizes like, oh my god, like my wife showed up. She's here. I heard her on the phone, but she's finally here. And he's just like, yep, absolutely. You get on up there. She's here. And he's like, he's nervous. He steps up there. And inside, there's Sue Dibney. She's like, yes, I remember everything. They embrace, they share a hug. She's like, oh, I've always felt this hole inside of me. Even when I didn't know you, I missed you. And Ralph was like, with you gone, I couldn't stretch. I was stuck in this look. I couldn't change it. It's this whole thing. And then it's like, okay, yeah, sure. By the way, what's with the whole group of weird people downstairs? And Ralph's like, yeah, it's an adopted family. We just kind of lost like a daughter. It's a whole thing. She's just gone. And he's like, well, it sounds like you forgot who you were. So I brought you something so you can remember. It's kind of a change of clothes. And as we see everyone downstairs debating whether or not they can go up the League of Assassins, whether Strix would want them to begin with. Voice comes from upstairs saying, well, you guys told me to think it over. I've thought it over. Let's go get our family back. And down the stairs comes the elongated man, full-on Ralph Dibny, wearing the costume. It's the whole 9 yards. I don't know a goddamn thing about the elongated man, so this is like, oh, hey, you? That being said, I was collecting comics by this point, like keeping up with the news, and I remember this was like a whole big shebang. This is a whole thing of like, oh my god, the elongated man has made his return in the New 52, and it's like, oh, neat. No, I mean, it's a solid issue. I appreciate the choice being made and how, like, I don't know, just how it was treated in the moment, I guess. But it also does feel like, of course they're not just going to let that slide. Like, if this series I knew was going to continue on for another, like, 20 issues, or it didn't have any signs of being canceled, I'd be like, oh no, this is actually, like, a new status quo. This can be something that changes up. But it feels so obvious that it's just going to be like, let's go get Strix. And so having the team be like, oh no, we can't possibly take on the League of Assassins, where the previous arc was them literally signing up for suicide at the end of the world just to save Alice. Like, I don't know. It feels a little bit weird to me. It's not bad. It's just weird. It's a different characterization than I was expecting. So I'll say it's a 7.5. It's good. It's solidly good. But it's got, across the whole series, it's got a bit of character weirdness that I'm not sure has been totally hammered out. Maybe it's just because we're rushing to get to the end here. Maybe we could have made it a whole bigger thing if we had more than like 4 issues to do it, but coulda, shoulda, woulda. Justice League 3001, number 10, written by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis, art by Scott Collins. Backup has a different artist. I'll mention that when I get there. So we open up with Supergirl, Ice and Fire. They're on this planet of bug people. They went there to investigate a previous planet that Lady Styx had taken over and now was all barren. And as the bug people attack them, Supergirl just starts vaporizing, just like full-on heat vision, throwing punches that cut them in half, like totally a thing. Ice is a little bit horrified of like, we don't even know what these creatures are. Are you sure we should be fighting them? And Fire's like, hell yeah, they attacked us first. And it's like, they threw a rock. I don't feel like that's the same. But regardless, Fire's now in on the fight, doing all this stuff. Eventually Ice is like, look, this isn't right. We're not bullies. We're the Justice League. And as they're saying like, oh, this is, you know, the Scullions, they blew Superman's head off, all this stuff. They say, this isn't normal for any of us. I mean, maybe Guy Gardner, maybe. To which a voice off panel says, yeah, that guy, he always flew off the handle. He always had a good heart, Icy. And Ice is like, who the hell are you? This magical hooded figure. What is this all about? And just like, oh, you know, these scavies are actually pretty cool. They're docile unless you know, beat the ever-loving crap out of them. And you're on their territory. That's also why they started attacking. And Ice is like, how do you know my name? Who are you? And he's like, oh, we're old pals from a long time ago. You're an immortal goddess, so you look better. I, however, have aged significantly. But all in all, I got no complaints. And he takes off his hood and reveals legendary Green Lantern, leader of Justice League Antarctica. It's Nort. It's Gnort. And he's like, yeah, hey, how's it going? How about you stop Supergirl and Fire before they, like, kill everybody here? So we cut over to Takron Galtos. I don't even remember this part being a thing, but Wonder Woman and Flash and Robin, or Batgirl, whatever she's going by, have all approach Sheriff Tariq and are like, we know you're the convert. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I've just been sitting here doing my job ever since you took down the 5. What would make you think I'm the convert? And it's like, it's because we don't have a lot of evidence for it, but we are convinced that you are the convert. And the worst part is that they're right. He's like, all right, fine. Yeah, sure. I'm the convert. But like, I literally haven't been doing anything, so what's the big deal? And it's like, you see, we figured out you were the convert because the Scullions act off of a hive mind, and you are a hive mind. Therefore, you are behind the Scullions. And just like, really? Yeah, that's what you think? And they're right to an extent. Like, he's basically like, okay, yes, I'm pure consciousness. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to kill me? Like, you destroy this body, I just jump around to another body. And they point out, like, wait a minute, hold on. You say you're working with Lady Styx here. Was your allegiance to the Five a sham? It's just like, I was there to manipulate things to get the Five to set things up for Lady Styx. This entire book, from the beginning, is now retconned that all of it was to get to this point with Lady Styx taking over. And it's like, yeah, well, the Justice League were reborn, and that must have thrown a wrench into your plan. And he's like, have you not been listening? The entire book, including you guys, has all been part of the plan. And it's just like, why? We're the only ones who could defeat Lady Styx. It's like, no, you can't. You're there to provide her some entertainment. She likes having a little fight every once in a while and people coming up against her. That's the whole reason you're here. So then Robin busts in with a big bat and just kills Sheriff Tariq. And it's just like, yeah, well, you know what? I'm going to take him, I'm going to stuff him, and I'm going to put him in my trophy room. With my giant penny and my T-Rex. And they're like, what? But they point out very quickly, he just said he's a hive mind. Killing one body literally doesn't make a difference. So a few more pop in through the door being like, seriously, you can't beat me. Get out of here. I'm not going to kill you because Lady Styx isn't done with you yet. So just like bail. And it's like, yeah, what if we don't? What if we keep fighting? And then Wonder Woman starts speaking in Convert's voice, saying like, if you don't, I'm going to use this Wonder Woman body to beat you both to a bloody pulp, and then I'll have her kill herself. That's what I'll do. And it's like, but you've never been able to take over a Justice League person's body before? And he's like, I always could. I chose not to. So, yeah. So then we cut over to a planet called Naltor, where I guess Lady Styx is bathing in a pool of blood. And she's chastising Convert, like, I specifically told you not to take over a Justice Leaguer's body. And she's like, look, I didn't have much of a choice. They kept on pestering. They were up in my grill. I wanted to get them more determined to stop you, and now we can keep moving our little game forward. And Styx is like, what do you mean our game? You can't even see the game. What you described to them was the shadow of the shadow of the shadow of the real game. You weren't even close to the real game. That is an actual quote. So she's basically just hyping herself up, and then she's like, by the way, whatever happened to Eclipso, to the other Terry that we turned into Eclipso? And just like, yeah, he's got his legion of villains or whatever. He's ready to do whatever. And it's like, cool. Let him go out and do whatever, but keep Flash alive. Don't let him kill her. I have big plans for her. You know, that shadow of the shadow of the shadow of the game thing. So we cut back over to the Supergirl and Nort plot. And he's like, yeah, these guys, the scavies that I call them scavies because they're scavengers. They just go to different planets and they scavenge. They try to get all the cool stuff out of a planet. The last planet they were on was completely picked dry, so we brought them over to this planet. And, I'm just the supervisor. I answer to the big boss. And it's like, oh, is the big boss Lady Styx? And it's like, no, Jesus, she's crazy. You kidding me? Nah. She destroyed this planet and like killed everybody on it, and that's why the scavies are here. We go after the planets after Lady Styx destroys them. And Supergirl's like, wait a minute, what? She destroys planets, but she rules the planets. And it's like, no, not I mean, yeah, she does, but like, she plays with a planet like it's a toy, and when she gets bored with it, she just nukes it, kills everybody, and then leaves and does it to another planet, and that just keeps on happening. And Supergirl's like, why are you so casual about this? There were billions of people here. What is wrong with you? And he's like, she wiped out the whole Green Lantern Corps. She killed everybody. What she did to the Guardians was even worse. So, like, yeah, it matters, but, like, there's nothing we can do about it. And Supergirl's just like, so what? After all that, you're just like some sort of parasite living off her leftovers. And just like, well, I mean, look, we've already been to war against her. We barely got out. Even my cousin couldn't stop her. It's like, wait a minute, your cousin? It's like, yeah, Larfleeze. He's my 14th cousin, twice removed. And they're like, oh my God, when you said Big Boss earlier, please tell me you were not talking about Larfleeze. And he's like, yup. And as they're clarifying, saying, like, we're talking about the same Larfleeze here, like Agent Orange, greed made flesh, all that sort of stuff. And it's just like, yep, that's him. And the Scavies worship him. They think of him as a god. And that's where Larfleeze chimes in saying, oh, they do not think of me as a god. I am a god. All of this is mine. We travel world to world, and they get me all the stuff from the world, and it all belongs to me, and it's mine. And the orange god will smite you where you stand if you interfere with the gathering of my stuff. So yeah, Larfleeze is around. One last little bit here is the Starro thing that's been bugging around with Guy Gardner. Keeps on wanting to be friends because he's like, ever since Lady Styx took over, I can't feel my hive mind, and I'm very alone, and I want to be your friend, Guy Gardner. And she's like, shut up, we're not friends. And he's like, well, you and I are very similar because you're also, you have another person inside of you who's aching to burst out. And he's like, okay, well, yeah, maybe we can talk. And then it turns out Eclipso is watching this whole thing with his evil legion. Doesn't matter. I'll talk about that with the backup. The backup is art by Colleen Doran. It's focusing on Lois Lane and Ariel. They have gotten to the pleasure planet Salacious 7, and they're looking for Sinestro. Specifically, Lois is like, yeah, he should be around here, but the planet is crawling with scullions. How are we supposed to get around? And it turns out Ariel has some hollow masking that makes them invisible to everyone. Not like actually invisible, they just look different. And Lois looks like a hunchback, whereas Ariel looks very pristine and nice looking. They check in on a specific place where they heard Sinestro was. It's a strip club and or a sex joint called the Love Rocket. Turns out he was there recently but hasn't been there for the past week. And as they move further down the lane, they come across the Power Ring that has the Green Lantern logo. And it's like, well, this is where he's definitely going to be. And as they go in, Ariel's like, wait a minute, why would Sinestro be in a strip club? And turns out he's the boss of the place, but he's also a stripper. And he's performing a strip routine in front of all these women, throwing up jewels and cash and stuff like that. Lois tackles him to the ground. He's in a G-string, and he's just like, oh, Lois, have you lost your mind? And he's just like, what do you mean if I lost it? You're Sinestro, and you're performing at a strip club. He's like, look, I thought the rest of the Injustice League went down. I thought they all died. I needed a way to survive. And it's like, by stripping? And it's like, yeah. It gets my self-esteem up. I'm surrounded by women, and it's not really a bad life. He's like, we could have taken over the entire planet. You've got enough power to do that. And what? And Sinestro admits, I don't have the ring anymore. It's gone. They took it, left me helpless. I didn't have a choice, but I had to make a deal. And it's like, who's they? Who did you make a deal with? And very quickly, Sinestro's like, yeah, this club, I got a bunch of implants that gave me some extra fighting power, but Lady Styx took it all. And then the Scullions teleport in because the deal was you give up Lois Lane and Ariel Masters. So they've been betrayed. Oh no. All right. Convert stuff, don't care. Nort stuff, it's weird that we're tying back into the Larfleeze book. Obviously, that was Keith Giffen and DeMatteis' last thing they did, so I shouldn't be that surprised. But damn. It's okay. It's fine. The Ariel Masters and Lois Lane stuff, frankly, I still don't like it as a storyline plot. It just got thrown in here, and I don't think it's been properly explained well enough. And then Guy Gardner stuff, also, who cares? So overall, I don't feel like this book is doing enough to forward me to think oh yeah, great, we're doing something with the Lady Styx stuff. If the Lady Styx stuff gets wrapped up by issue 12, by this point, it's going to feel like a cop-out. It's going to feel like they hyped them up so big, there's no way it should have worked. If it doesn't get wrapped up, it's just going to feel like there's no real resolution to the book, and it just died on its own. So it's a lose-lose situation, frankly. I don't feel like it's really going to work out here. So I'm going to say this issue, 6.5. I can't quite give it a 7, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. I can never predict this book. Harley Quinn number 26, written by Amanda Connor, Jimmy Palmiotti, art by John Timms. So last issue, I think we basically just wrapped up a whole plot. We got the thing of Joker and Harley's fight. It was a pretty big issue, all things considered. This issue, opens up with a dream sequence. It's immediately obvious it's a dream sequence. Harley wins some sort of trophy next to two big buff guys, and then she says, I'm going over to my grandma's house. And then we get a Little Red Riding Hood-esque couple panels where this wolf comes out who has very pale face skin and very red lips, and he's like, hey, you can trust me, I'm a friend, I'd never do anything to harm you. And she's like, all right, well, I'm very off track, let's get going. And as they make their way through the woods, there's a motorcycle riding kangaroo with kittens in its pouch. And the wolf is like, all right, ignore that, let's get going. So they make their way back to this giant manor estate, super creepy looking, and it says Grandma's house across the front. And the wolf is like, we have to get inside to wait out the blizzard. And it's like, what? But there's no snow. And then a bunch of snowflakes come down in the shape of all of her friends. And the wolf, who's getting a lot more grinning and has some green fur coming up from the top of its head, is saying like, enough, get inside, let's go. And he locks the door, swallows the key. And she's like, you're not going to hurt me, would you? And he's like, well, that depends. Are you going to be a good girl? Are you going to do everything that your master says? And she's like, what? Master? Nobody's my master. And then she zooms out and we see she's got puppet strings on her hands as the Joker is the marionette. And then she wakes up and she's just on the train back to New York. And she's like, oh, boy. Gotham sucked. I'm glad I'm not there anymore. I love it here in New York. And then cut to the next morning on a Coney Island beach where she's kicking some dude in the face. And she's like, yeah, well, I was hoping that I could walk down the beach and enjoy my day, shake off some of the doom and gloom from Gotham, but nope, I have to deal with these punks. And we see that there is a group of turf defending surfer punks who are chastising Harley, and one of them calls her a bitch, and she's like, first off, your lingo is straight out of like horrible Netflix writing. Second off, you have a mohawk that you will now be losing because you called me a bitch. And so she dodges a few punches from this girl and then just rips off this girl's mohawk. Second guy comes up, he's got huge like gauge ears, and Harley just walks up and is like, hey, pay attention, you're a bully, and that will get you nowhere in life, and you shouldn't gang up on a fellow beach buff for taking a stroll down the beach. That's just not nice. And she puts her fingers into his gauges and rips his ears off. Third guy, final guy who's there, is like, we're good, you can do whatever you want, we get the message loud and clear. So they take off. In walks Tony, who brings her a coffee, and basically saying like, hey, you good? Like, let's talk about the situations across your books. Your gang is looking for some help doing whatever. You want to like let them out to go do their own thing? And Harley's like, nah, they need a bit more training before they can do their own thing, but I want them to be able to act without me. And then there's a little editor's note that says, Harley Quinn and the gang of Harleys coming soon. We then get stuff about her roller derby gig. There's a huge amount of cash on the line coming up soon, so she's going to go do that. And then she needs to work at her nursing home job as well. So she feels upset, a little bit lonely and melancholy, despite her being so busy with all this stuff. And Tony's like, yeah, you don't have any time to sleep or rest or take time for yourself. Like, that's the whole thing. And as they're walking away from the beach, they pass by a guy with a metal detector who takes a look at Harley's ass and says, that's a nice ass. And then we get 2 straight pages of Harley Quinn saying, now, sir, I'll have you know that while I do have a sweet booty, I do not appreciate, and no one would appreciate, having their objectification like that. So perhaps you should think, or else I'm going to beat the ever-loving crap out of you and like do all this horrible stuff. And then Mr. Metal Detector Man says, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean any offense, but I do want to tell you that an ass like that is so fine that it should be worshipped. And I would love to get down on one knee and give that ass my entire rest of my life to have and to hold, to never ignore, in sickness and in health. And Harley and Tony are both taken aback like, this guy just proposed to my ass? What's going on? And he's like, but it won't happen again. Good day, madam. And he walks away. And Harley's like, I don't even know what to make of that. We then cut over to the mayor, the whole thing of the mayor being corrupt or whatever. I guess he blamed it on his previous assistant, who is now dead. And yeah, he's off scot-free. So we see he's got a new detective who's working cleanup. This guy seems to be a bit more whatever. I don't even know what his name is. Detective Spoon. That's why I didn't remember that. Spoon is basically like, yeah, I've got these, all this stuff. We're going to do whatever we can to deal with Mason and all this other stuff. But you make me chief of police and you're not going to have a worry in the world, Mr. Mayor. So that's the thing that's happening. We then cut over to a bedridden man whose name is Wayne Wilkins. And he has a prosthetic arm, and it's a long story. He's in a nursing home. He's being cared for by some rando, and this was several years ago, and he's like, oh, there's only one person that I want to get revenge against for my current situation, all this horrible stuff. I was a ghost warrior back in the day. I've got this primal urge inside of me, but there's only one person that I'm focused on, and it's implied it's Harley Quinn. Then we get the big character shake-up, the big thing for the sake of the movie. We see that she is talking to Queenie. Queenie's like, I got some new outfit plans for you, like you requested. First things first, though, we're doing your hair. And Harley immediately falls asleep as Queenie's rubbing her hair. And when she wakes up, she's now got her standard blonde cut, the one that's going to match the Margot Robbie. And she's like, oh, it's so cinematic. And then they fetch out her new jacket, which is pretty much like the old one, but this one has a picture of the Joker on the back behind bars with like teeth knocked out. And it's just like, oh, it's great. It's fantastic. Thank you so much, Queenie. We got back to Mr. Wilkins, who is in a lot of pain. He feels like his insides are all messed up. The nurse comes in being like, oh, well, did you take your medication? He's just like, yep, the whole bottle. She's like, this is a weekly med. You should be dead right now. But his head starts throbbing. The nurse tries to get him to relax. He just backhands her, puts her through a wall, starts punching his own head through a wall. And other doctors are called in with tranq darts to finally put this guy down. And just like, all right, we got to do something about this guy. So apparently he goes under the knife. They mess around with his inner cortex or whatever. They say that they found a small tumor on the amygdala, whatever, who cares. But the big thing that comes out of it is he's unable to feel any physical pain anymore. And he's like, I don't blame the doctors for this. It was hers. It was all her fault. But right now, I can't control my emotions, and I have a rage inside me that needs to be let out. So he throws the doctor out of the window and then goes on the run. He seems to set fire to the hospital, potentially. But as he's making his way through the snow, he doesn't even feel the cold. And he eventually comes to a house that is all burned down. But in the back was a tool shed that was left untouched. And as he steps in, he says, oh, tools. I love tools. So we cut over to the roller derby thing. Everyone's like, oh, hey, Harley, good to have you back, all this stuff. Have you heard about this stuff? Also great hair. And she's like, oh, yeah, thanks so much. But it turns out that there's the bids for tonight have jumped all the way up to 60 grand. And she's like, oh, well, I got to win that. But they're like, well, the thing is there's a dude here who's been asking about you for months. And he wants to take you on one-on-one. He's the one who's bumped this prize pool up so high. He's literally bought his way into the game. And it's just like, oh, who is this guy? What does he want with me? And it's like, no one knows who he is. He wears a mask. He goes by a code name. And it's just like, all right, well, regardless, I'm going to take his money. I'm going to beat the crap out of him. And then I'm taking us all out for a girls' day, and we're going to have pizza afterwards. And the whole crew high-fives each other as she's taken out. She goes by the name Killer Quinn. And the ref is like, all right, it's Killer Quinn versus the Crimson Crusher, known only as Red Tool. Yeah. So out comes Red Tool, whose speech bubbles are all in the shape of tools, like hammers and saws and such. And as he comes out, he says, hey, by the time I'm done with this menace, I'm going to paint those tools of destruction in the barrel red with her blood. And Harley says, oh, well, let's get to it. So... at the time, because the Deadpool movie was either just about to be a thing or just was a thing. I can't remember the exact timeline. Of course, Deadpool was kind of in the zeitgeist. He's kind of a big thing. And then people were making comments and saying, Deadpool and Harley Quinn, wouldn't that be a thing? You know, these two characters who are breaking the fourth wall and leaning on it constantly. So DC said, all right, hold my beer. And they made their own. Red Tool. I couldn't give less of a shit about Red Tool right now. I mean, the rest of the issue is fine. It's whatever. It feels very strangely paced, but it's just kind of setting up whatever the next arc is going to be. And the next arc is going to be Red Tool. The fact that this dude looks like he's in his mid 70s is weird, but fine. Okay. Like, I don't know how this is going to play out, but all I know is I've seen future covers and it seems to be implying romance, which how we get from here to there is baffling to me. But the writers have done stranger. I guess the big thing to talk about is the blonde hair, though. Fine, cool. It's been something that's stuck around with the character. It makes sense, especially now that we moved on post-Joker. She's not going to be dyeing her hair anymore. She's inventing a new look for herself. I'm cool with it. Frankly, even if it weren't a movie tie-in, I think they did a good enough job of making it feel like a natural progression for the character in the book. So for that, I give the book a 7. All things combined, I think it's good. It's a good issue. It's not great. It's not blowing me away, but it's, for what it is as a setup issue, good. Batman and Robin Eternal number 25, written by Tynion Snyder and Orlando, art by Javier Pena and Goran Sudzuka. So this issue picks up with Midnighter looking over Crane as he's making the trauma toxin or whatever. He's like, all right, we need a bit more time here. How's everyone else doing out there? And everyone's like, not great, man. Tell him to get his ass in gear. Jesus Christ. Every second is more innocent kids getting messed in. And also the orphan people, the other orphans are definitely a problem as well. And we see little cut across to every single city that's being affected. Everyone's having a tough time of it. Collin calls over to Dick being like, all right, Dick, things are getting worse. I hope that things are better on your side. Meanwhile, Dick is dodging fire sword blasts from Azrael. And he's just trying to explain to him, like, look, my guy, we need to have Mother stand and expose for her crimes. That's important. And Azrael's like, everything that I ever believed, my entire being for Saint Dumas was all a lie that was built for the sake of Mother. I was to be bought and sold. And you want her to be exposed? No, she's going to die. And Grayson's like, I'm sorry, this is non-negotiable. And he uses his katanas or whatever to break Azrael's blade, and he's like, oh, what, you think that was my only weapon? And so he gets 2 fire blades coming out from his gauntlets, and he's like, I have many swords. So he keeps on swiping, keep doing his thing. Eventually Grayson gets him in a chokehold, lands a solid punch in the face enough to break his mask, and is like, yo, you are stuck in the same exact cycle that Mother wants you to be. She wants you to be violent. That's her whole thing. So you doing this is giving her exactly what she wants. You said you believe in something greater? Do it. Be something greater than what Mother has taught you. And Azrael breaks free. He swipes one more time at Grayson. Seems like he can do a killing blow, but then Azrael's like, all right, I'm listening. So back inside, Harper's just chastising Mother for like, you want me to kill Cassandra? How could I live with myself no matter what she did? And Mother's like, okay, let me try again. Cassandra killed your family and you can cut her throat. And Harper's like, no, I'm not going to do it. He's like, let me finish. You can cut her throat and then join me in the better world afterwards. And like, we could tell Mother can realize, like, oh, this is a no-sell. All right, time to pump it up a little bit. So she brings up a projection, a hologram of Cassandra killing her mother right in front of Harper. And basically just saying, like, Cassandra's a failure. Like, I know you feel bad about killing her because she's a person or whatever, but she's not. She's a killing tool that literally feels bad about killing. This is Island of Misfit Toy sort of stuff. Put her out of her misery. She does not deserve to live. That's a mercy killing. And Harper's like, you really think that that's going to work for me? You really think that's going to sell me? She's like, does it? Did it? Is it? Yes. So then we cut over to Midnighter calling it in, saying, all right, trauma gas is ready. We're ready to do it. Everyone else is, are you good? And everyone else is like, no, we're stuck with the orphan thing. We can't drop the toxin if we can't get up to the antenna to kill the signal. Like, well, we're still stuck on that. And it's just like, okay, how many are there? 12? And Midnighter's like, 12? That's not that bad. And it's just like, all right, then we've got a plan. So everyone starts coordinating where they knock back Orphan just long enough to get them through a door, and all the doors converge right around Midnighter. And Midnighter's like, well, time to shine. And he just starts beating the ever-loving crap out of all of them. So now that everyone else is free of the orphans, they're just back to the kids. They're easily able to escape the kids. They get up to the top of their antennas, and they knock them all out. So now there's no more kids being added to the list. However, all of them are still trained. They still have like the pattern repeating in their heads. So they need to be kicked out of it. And that's what the trauma toxin's for. So everyone puts on their gas masks. I guess they have doors open up to distribute the toxin. They don't actually show that. And he's like, yeah. Red Robin makes the equivalent of saying, like, look, if a heart is beating irregularly, you defibrillate, and that gets it back onto normal track. This is the equivalent. Their brains are irregular because of Mother's programming. We're going to shock it back into place. So they leak all this trauma toxin all over the cities, and as it comes down, all the kids are like, oh, huh, what happened? And Collin just cheers. He's like, yes, we did it. Hooray. I'll get to that in a second. Meanwhile, Mother is so pissed off. She sees this happening. She's like, oh my God, these goddamn idiots. They're so short-sighted. Yeah, pain is inevitable, but you can't just, put on a Band-Aid. You got to push through it. You got to like make it happen. I'm trying to make the world a better place. So, all right, launch the second satellites. We're just going to do it again. Like relaunch the program. Meanwhile, Harper's walking over to Cassandra and is like looking at her, but is not actually doing anything. Is Cassandra's just crying there. Mother's just going off on him, just saying like, you stupid Robins. That's the problem here. All you people that were trained by Batman. Batman is such a short-term solution. That's all he is. He's saving one person's life at a time. Meanwhile, I'm trying to save generations of people from the pain that they would otherwise have to go through. This is stupid. You're all stupid and you're weak and you're unprepared, and I have to save the entire world. And then Grayson finally shows up and he throws down his Eskrima stick and says, actually, Mother, I think that's my job. Okay, so my only minor critique, tiny little thing that I would like to point out here, and it's a dark point, but they explicitly said that the way to cure these children of the programming is to put them through extreme trauma. Why is it that these kids come out of this and they're just kind of amnesiacs? They're just like, what? Where am I? Where's my mother? No, these kids should come out like shaking. They should come out like, oh my God, I just seen horrible things that I can never unsee. I know that's not good to sell a victory point on. Like, oh yeah, we did it. We beat Mother. Look at how all these children are crying in this open field. Clearly that's not a good sight, but like that's the lore they established in the book. You can't just establish that and then say, yeah, but like kids deal with trauma really well. No, they don't. No, they don't. That's possibly the worst time to experience trauma. I don't know why I'm harping on that. It just stuck with me. It's kind of like the one. The other thing in the book, I guess, that's a little bit weird, but it's only because of other books, is the Midnighter thing. There are no less than 3 books, Midnighter, Grayson, and this book, that treat Midnighter as the boogeyman. Treat him as John Wick. And like, fair? I don't think it's unreasonable to say, like, that's his whole shtick, that he's able to just beat the ever-loving piss out of anybody with no moral compass or ethical guidelines holding him back. But at the same time, you can't just have it be your trump card in every book. In Midnighter, I mean, the book is his. It's going to happen regardless. But in Grayson, literally the exact same week that this book came out, they use it in the exact same way, where Midnighter goes up against these otherwise very formidable opponents and then just kind of wipes this page with them off page, like off panel. In fact, I think that might have been written. No, that was a different group. It was a different group of people, but like, it's, they're talking to each other, clearly. So, I don't know. A little bit of weirdness. I still think it's an okay issue. I think it's fine as we're wrapping things up here. I think I would have rathered Harper consider the option a little bit more. I don't think I wanted her to just completely be like, no, I'll never kill. Like, no, she was hurt. She was really messed up. She maybe didn't need to like make it obvious that she was going to not say yes, but just a little bit of like, I am hurt. Cassandra caused this for me, and at least be thinking about it. She didn't, she'll clearly say no, but give us a beat, give us a second. Overall, I still did like the issue. It just felt very similar and samesies to the last one. So I'm gonna say a 7. It's good. It's not great. But no, final issue next week. We'll see how we wrap it all up. My guess is Mother does not succeed, but who knows? And that's it. That is all the comics that were put out by DC Comics this March 23rd, 2016. Now, as I said at the beginning, next week is a 5th week. I only have 4 comics to talk about. I'll tell you those 4 comics right now. That is Aquaman, Justice League of America, Omega Men, and Batman and Robin Eternal. At least one of those is a final issue. Your guess as to which. Here's the thing. And again, I want to be brief with this because it's been a long episode already. That's not enough to fill an episode. No matter how I stretch that, there's no way I can make that even like justify an episode length. So I have an idea. And again, I don't want to share it quite yet because it's not totally locked in. But if I go through with this idea, this horribly ill-advised, misguided, bad idea, it's going to be the most fun I've had on this show. Out of everything I've done. So, stay tuned for that. Tune in for that. I hope that it'll be something that is at least mildly entertaining to someone besides me. Because that's all I can hope for in life, right? That I'm not just screaming into the void and saying, hey, who wants to see my stupid ass ideas? Anyway, if you have any comments that you would like to share about anything at all, really, like it's part of my idea that you share some thoughts. So do that by putting it in the comments section down beneath this YouTube video. If you're watching this more than a week after it came out, still do that, but you missed your chance. How dare you? I don't appreciate latecomers. We also have a Discord and a subreddit and a Patreon, and all that stuff is also available in case you don't like commenting on YouTube and yet for some reason like one of those other platforms. Most of those other platforms are trash, though. So, sure, whatever. Anyway, I had to delay filming this episode because of a thunderstorm. So it is approaching midnight for me the day before this goes out. I still have to edit the whole thing, and I am just not okay mentally. I'm barely here. I'm barely alive. But thank you for sticking around and keeping me company through it. I forget how I typically intro this sort of stuff offhandedly, but once again, thank you for paying attention, watching, listening, however you consume this podcast. There it is. Be sure to tune in next week, and always try to remember, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.